From a family of fishermen and farmers to the true immortal of water and virtue, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376, Quanqing's Gengjin. Golden thunders descended one after another, and the calamity light seemed to create the world. The power contained in it was enough to overturn mountains and rivers and wipe out all the giant and monks in the world. Li Quanqing tried his best to fight against it. The 5 thunder Mialuo umbrella in his hand kept vibrating, and the thunders that had been swallowed before were spewed out again, turning into 5 colored lightning to fight against it. Turned defense into offense. But this also came at a price. The Mialuo umbrella released the 5 thunder essence, and its own defense was naturally much weaker. The layer of light curtain that was stretched out was almost nothing. Li Quanqing had to forcefully survive the heavenly calamity with his physical body and accept the baptism of the thunder essence. His clothes were torn, and burnt scars began to appear on his body. But! Exclamation mark. At the same time, the Hanhei bowl was also suspended under his feet, humming constantly, helping the owner to consume these heavenly thunders and transform into a Yuanying spirit treasure. Thunders exploded one after another, all of which were golden thunders, like a golden sea of thunder, which stretched out the entire calamity cloud and illuminated the 10 directions of heaven and earth. There is one last one. Li Quanqing stared at the sky, struggling to hold on in the thunder tribulation, looking very embarrassed. The water surface of the Yulangtan under his feet was boiling for hundreds of miles, and the water columns rushed up to the sky. The essence of the entire 4th level spiritual vein was extracted and refined by him alone. In the Danshan, the golden elixir was spinning. It was originally slightly dim, but now the light became bright again, and the magic power poured wantonly in the meridians. Li Quanqing looked seriously injured. His whole body was black, as if he had turned into charcoal, but in fact, his origin was not injured, and his internal organs were only slightly injured. It must be said that the secret treasure of the tribulation was really powerful. The whole process was much easier than he imagined. Boom. The thunder roared, and the tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly began to shrink rapidly. Then the 36th thunder was brewing, as if it had its own life, constantly swallowing and spitting. Li Quanqing's pupils shrank slightly, and suddenly saw a touch of purple blooming in the golden sea of thunder, like the divine light on the spiritual sky, precious beyond words. The golden thunder slowly fell, mixed with a wisp of purple air. Wherever it passed, the void was like broken glass, shattering inch by inch. Everything in the world will be reduced to ashes in an instant. Such a powerful thunder, I'm afraid it's enough to destroy the power of the nascent soul. Deep in the 10,000 fish pond, the old patriarch was shocked, and the magic weapon in his hand shone with brilliance. He engraved this scene in it, and left it for the family's descendants to record and reference. The purple gold thunder was raging, like a sword of opening the sky, that suppressed the eternity. Deep in the broken void sky, it seemed that a supreme breath descended. At this last moment, Li Quanqing no longer held back. The Whale Emperor's holy armor in his Danshan suddenly glowed, piercing through his flesh and blood, and turned into a layer of azure armor draped over his body. He didn't use it before, because he was worried that the power of the thunder tribulation would increase again. Now that the thunder fell without regret, it was naturally important to save his life. Boom! Exclamation mark. The purple golden sky thunder roared down, like a real dragon with calamity light gathering, crashing into the mirror umbrella, releasing endless lightning. The 5 thunder mirror umbrella wailed, and with a tearing sound, a small crack appeared on the umbrella surface, and it fell from the sky. The runes were dim and the breath dropped sharply. Li Quanqing was exposed to the thunder, facing the heavenly calamity, with great power, and the whole person was submerged by endless lightning. When the dazzling light in the sky dissipated, the figure wearing the holy armor appeared in the field of vision again, and the tiny purple golden thunder exploded on the surface of the armor, unharmed. The heavenly Deo will not deny it, right? Li Quanqing looked at the black calamity cloud that was still spreading and rolling above his head, and felt a little flustered. He thought to himself, this can't be considered cheating, right? It can only be said that it is within the scope of the rules, and it can be flexibly moved in a small range. Li Quanqing hesitated for a moment, opened the holy armor, and pretended to spit out a few mouthfuls of blood to show respect. You see, I'm seriously injured. The nascent soul heavenly tribulation, so terrifying. In the end, the clouds of the calamity above the head all dissipated, leaving only the most pure essence of heaven and earth, which baptized the cultivator's bones and cast the foundation of the nascent soul. The way of heaven is fair, since you have already survived the 49th heavenly tribulation, there will be no more disasters. 7 color rainbow lights filled the sky, which were rare heavenly tribulation essences, representing the rare origin of the world, creating all things. Li Quanqing saw this, and breathed a sigh of relief. The golden elixir flew out of his body, and swallowed up all the essence in the sky. It can be seen that the rainbow light was dense, and turned into a 7-color lotus, holding up this flawless golden elixir, which was round and full, and the road was flawless. Inside the increasingly crystal clear golden elixir, 3 strands of infant energy entangled and kept growing, and then turned into a vague outline of a baby. Break. With Li Quanqing's low shout, the golden elixir trembled violently, and then the light became brighter, and with a crisp click, cracks spread on the surface. The azure golden elixir seemed to be under endless pressure, and every crack was gushing out extremely rich life essence. The broken pieces of the golden elixir turned into thick mana droplets, which gathered and reshaped 3 feet above Li Quanqing's head. Gradually, a vague outline of a baby appeared. The facial features were not yet clear, but there was already a lively breath. Sitting on the lotus platform, the pressure filled the world. Tens of thousands of Li family members saw this scene, and some could not help but cheered with joy, and the sky was boiling. It was at this moment that the surrounding time and space seemed to solidify and stagnate. Then ripples appeared in the void, and the dreamlike mist quietly filled the air. The cheers gradually faded away, and the faces of the clansmen became blurred, as if the whole person was peeled off from the world. The outer demon has arrived. At this most dangerous moment, a white jade pill suddenly jumped out of Li Quanqing's arms, holding up a holy light to protect the body and the nascent soul. Holy infant pill. This extremely precious infant forming holy object is not for oral use, but for external use, to resist the inner demon. Li Quanqing's barely formed soul infant opened his little hand, and immediately held the holy infant pill in his arms. On the flawless surface of the white jade pill, the golden lines seemed to burn, and the sound of a saint's sermon was heard. The holy light spread, and blocked the inner demon outside. The psychedelic mist surged, and a roar of unwillingness was faintly heard. The inner demon did not give up. The soul of the cultivator was really sweet and delicious. Even though the mist was weakened by the holy light, it was still tenacious, and drilled into the sea of consciousness of the cultivator in front of him. In an instant, the scene in front of Li Quanqing changed, and layers of illusions intertwined, and all kinds of regrets, fears, and greedy thoughts surged and intertwined. Li-san, as an outer sect disciple, you actually stole the sect's secret manual. What crime should you be punished for? Today, I will divorce you. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. Spiritual energy is revived. Kunlun Fairy Mountain is born. Someone witnessed a real dragon pulling a coffin, and all creatures in the world will start the road of evolution. Li Quanqing walked in this layer of illusions, and no matter how realistic it was, he still couldn't be moved at all. The Hanyu bell was gently shaken, and the crisp and pleasant bell sound echoed in his ears. A cool breath always guarded the souls in the Niwen Palace. Coupled with the flawless Tao heart polished by hundreds of reincarnations, this time the heart demon's chaos was safely passed without any danger. In the end, with the unwilling roar of the heart demon, all the psychedelic mist was dispelled, the solidified time and space returned to normal again, and the cheers of the tribesmen resounded in his ears again. The Yuanshan infant, whose facial features had already emerged, suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 rays of divine light shot up into the sky, with infinite power, indicating that a Yuanshan Zenjin had descended into the world. Li Quanqing, the infant formation was successful. Chapter 377 Visitors from Nanling. In the Qinghai cave, a nascent soul was suspended in the sky, with powerful magic power bursting out from its body, and its pupils shot straight into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. Li Quanqing moved into the nascent soul and felt an extremely powerful magic power surging in his body, as if he had merged into the whole world. With every move, he suppressed the mountains and rivers. He moved his body, and he really looked like a baby, not yet grown up, chubby, with short arms and legs, and looked quite cute. This nascent soul body was no more than 3 inches tall, and was as blue as colored glaze, as if condensed from the boundless ocean, and looked very deep. Li Quanqing looked at the colorful lotus flowers around him, opened his mouth and sucked, and the petals of the lotus flowers broke into pieces, turning into the purest essence of heaven and earth, and were swallowed into his stomach. Refining this essence of heaven and earth rewarded by the calamity, Li Quanqing immediately consolidated his cultivation a lot, and the nascent soul also grew a little bit, with a bright luster all over his body. He lowered his head, and looked at the flesh body sitting cross-legged with eyes closed below, and really felt that the skin bag was like a fairy. Although there are countless connections, it is not a necessity. It can completely leave the physical body, travel through the void for a short time, and barely survive in the world. The nascent soul is powerful, but also weak. Whether it is the 9 heavens gale or the great sun divine flame, it will cause devastating injuries to it. But! Exclamation mark. The 3-inch nascent soul sat up with his legs in meditation. His little face was slightly serious, and the water-like glow wrapped around his body. It followed the Xianling bone all the way into the Danshan, and sat in the sea of mana. In this process, the natal magic treasure Hanhei bowl also flew over, and landed in his arms. It was about to transform into a nascent soul spirit treasure. It only needed to be sacrificed for more than 10 years. The nascent soul returned to its original body, and Li Quanqing's body trembled. The powerful spiritual pressure swept across the world, and the wind whistled, like a sleeping real dragon reviving. Words and symbols appeared everywhere in his body, wandering in the meridians, and turned into ancient scriptures. This is the Xian Sutra engraved in the body of the immortal predecessor of Xian Dao. At this time, the chapter of Yuanying is revealed, as vast as the stars, powerful and mysterious. At the same time, all over Li Quanqing's body, there are more wisps of blue and green light, mixed with withered yellow, which is the revival of the blue sea bloodline, evolving the true meaning of reincarnation. Becoming a Yuanying great cultivator, the real excitement on the road of cultivation has just begun. Li Quanqing opened his eyes, his pupils were dark, as deep as the abyss, and a sound like the ebb and flow of the tide came from them. He opened his mouth and roared, and his powerful magic power was no longer concealed, turning into a beam of light that soared into the sky, and the sound shook the entire Qingyu cave heaven. Today, my Li family has truly been promoted to a Yuanying clan, standing at the top of the East China Sea, and will be remembered forever. As soon as the voice fell, all the clansmen's faces suddenly showed excitement, and the cheers instantly broke through the clouds, like a surging wave, one after another, unstoppable. The old patriarch stood in the pool of 10,000 fishes, also with a face full of relief, and the shadow bead in his hand shone brightly, freezing this scene forever. Just as the entire Qingyu Li family was immersed in a sea of ecstasy and excitement. Thousands of miles away, Qingchen Fairy City also welcomed an uninvited guest. This was a burly man with a beast pattern engraved on his face. He looked more than 40 years old, with red hair and beard, and the aura around him was hot and scorching, enough to distort the void. The most bizarre thing was that he actually carried a red coffin as red as fire, engraved with ancient runes, like a seal, and like the words of sacrifice. A series of iron chains were wrapped around the surface of the coffin, binding it to the body, emitting a temperature comparable to the sun, and the seawater under his feet was boiling. The man looked at the huge planet, where the fairy city stood in front of him, with a look of scrutiny and a hint of contempt, and he didn't care about the several golden elixir auras. In his palm, a firefly-like insect was flickering, its abdomen bulging like a red and yellow lantern. The insect caught a ray of air from the dark, and made a sharp chirping sound. Finally, its entire body exploded, and turned into flames and fireworks. The tracking insect has reacted. It seems that the traitor is hiding in this city now. The red-haired man spoke with a strange accent. It was obviously not a cultivator from the East China Sea, but from other regions. He tracked the traitor for nearly 10 million miles. I heard that this fairy city belongs to a Yuanying clan. I guess this traitor must have hidden his identity and joined them. He needs to be fully prepared. The man muttered to himself in a low voice. Although he was not afraid of Yuan Ying's engine, he also did not want to cause trouble for no reason. Facing the setting sun, the man walked towards Qingchen Fairy City step by step, his iron chains colliding, and the clanging sound scattered in the sea breeze. Li Quanqing naturally did not know about the upcoming foreign visitors. He sat cross-legged in the void, his Yuan Ying mana blooming, refining those powerful spiritual treasures, and marking them with his own bloodline. Buzz! Exclamation mark. One by one, the spiritual treasures were suspended in the air, and with the infusion of mana, they suddenly burst into dazzling light, like a small sun, with blazing rays of light. Only when you reach the Yuan Ying level can you truly burst out the powerful power of these 4th level spiritual treasures, moving mountains and seas, with infinite power. It's a pity for this 5 Thunder Luo umbrella. Li Quanqing waved his palm, and took something in, turning it into a small umbrella about a foot high, with a dim luster. It was a secret treasure that helped him successfully break the calamity before. He poured his mana into it. Although the whole treasure umbrella flowed with 5 colored rays of light and exploded with thunder, it still felt like a great loss of vitality. It can be seen that a crack appeared on the umbrella surface. It was not very conspicuous, but it was as thick as a hair, but it still hurt the origin of the spiritual treasure. When he breaks through to the 4th level weapon refiner in the future and finds the right materials, it will be easy to make up for it, and leave it to the tribesmen to use to overcome the thunder tribulation. Moo. Above the sky, King led a group of green-horned fish dragons back, looking at the almost dry Yulangtan below, and there was some heartache in his cry. Before, in order to make up for the vitality and magic power, Li Quanqing directly sucked the entire pond dry in one breath, and the 4th level spiritual vein below was also depleted. At this time, a group of green-horned fish dragons joined forces, accompanied by 2 Kingayukias using their demonic energy, and suddenly dark clouds rolled in, and heavy rain fell, calling the wind and rain. Too slow, too slow. Li Quanqing laughed, and his palm fell, and he immediately displayed the power of the nascent soul, as if he was controlling a piece of heaven and earth. I saw infinite spiritual energy gathering, as if the sky river was pouring back, and the rain poured down like a waterfall along the sky, setting off a storm in the pool. Such a huge spiritual tide also swept King Qiu and the others. The rain carried many spiritual beasts and they fell into the pool like dumplings, knocking them unconscious. King had never thought that he would drown one day after he had entered the body of a dragon. The raging waves filled the sky. This is the power of the nascent soul. Li Quanqing was amazed. It was just a small test. A ray of nascent soul magic power bloomed and suppressed all the golden elixir foundation monsters, turning the clouds and rain as easy as pie. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 Yuan Ying Dharma. The sky was filled with heavy rain, as if a big hole had been opened, with endless waterfalls pouring down, and the Cheyenne River pouring back. The strong winds and the sudden rain filled up the entire Yulangtan in an instant, causing a huge wave of turbid waves. Li Quanqing retracted his palm. He just used a wisp of Cheyenne's magic power to create such an amazing effect, which was shocking. This is the power of the Yuan Ying heaven, standing at the top of the world of immortal cultivation in the human world, powerful and mysterious, and each of them is like an ancestor. What's more, the world is broken now, the space is weak, and the world's suppression is far less powerful than in ancient times. The cultivators can easily break through the void. This also leads to the fact that the destructive power caused by the cultivators is far greater than before. After all, the world is no longer stable, creating a vicious cycle. It can only be said that the ancient gods fought too fiercely with each other, and they broke the world abruptly. The laws were incomplete, which caused the current bad consequences for future generations. The Heavenly River Scripture. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the embankment, watching the surging waves and the ups and downs of the white waves in front of him, and he really had some lofty ambitions like Donglin Kanghe. While refining several 4th level spiritual treasures, He looked inward and began to comprehend the inheritance of the heavenly river, and one wonderful method after another emerged in his mind. Logically speaking, as the inheritance of the immortals in the upper realm, the heavenly river path should be powerful and unpredictable, extremely fierce, far beyond the cultivators of the same level, and invincible in the world. However, Li Quanqing has been practicing until now, but he feels that it is not so powerful and is much more ordinary than he imagined. It's not that he is weak, but that he is not strong enough. Whether it is the foundation building chapter or the golden elixir chapter, there is not much difference with those divine texts. Now that he has carefully comprehended these scriptures, Li Quanqing finally made a new discovery and knew the real strength of the heavenly river inheritance. Yuanying Dharma. This powerful force that is unique to Yuanying cultivators can use the power of Yuanying to exert some of the superficial power of the law of the great Dao, which is enough to sweep the same level. Not all Yuanying Zenjin can possess Yuanying Dharma image. Only those truly powerful ancient inheritances can leave such power. At least it must be the text of the transformation of the spirit. For example, the previous Zhu patriarch obviously did not possess such a powerful Dharma image. His combat power was mediocre, that is, his life-saving magical power was relatively strong. According to the inheritance of the Zhu sect, as one of the ancestral courts of the demonic path, it has an extraordinary inheritance and naturally has the method of practicing the Yuanying Dharma image. But this guy may not be well trained, not talented enough, and has not succeeded in practicing, or there are other hidden reasons. The real heaven-defying thing about Cheyenne Dao is not only the power of Yuanying Dharma image, but also its number. Cheyenne Zenjing contains a total of 4 major inheritances, representing the 4 true waters, and also representing the 4 great ways between heaven and earth. This means that Li Quanqing can practice 4 Yuanying Dharma images and even merge them into one. For example, the Overlord level force in Biyuan, Zuanming Dao, is based on Zuanming Dharma image, to suppress the entire endless snowfield. The same is true for the dominant force in the southern region, Yanshen Dao. The Yanshen Dharma image with a teleportation array is a godlike existence that commands the entire Nanling Xiuxin world. On the other hand, Cheyenne Dao has 4 Dharma image inheritances of the same level, which shows how powerful it is. It is invincible in the world, and this is not just talk, it is the real first sect in the Xiuxin world. Cheyenne Dharma image, Changshu Dharma image, Tei Dharma image, Samsara Dharma image. Li Quanqing comprehended these 4 inheritances, which can be said to be equally matched, each representing a kind of great power. The most likely ones for him to comprehend successfully should be the Cheyenne Dharma image represented by the Zhenhe inheritance, and the Samsara Dharma image represented by the Bahai inheritance. Li Quanqing once refined Cheyenne true water, and there is still some Dao rhyme in his body, so it is easiest to comprehend. Samsara Dharma image is a powerful force that the Bahai god engraved in his bloodline descendants before ascending. It is also a natural fit, and the realm of comprehension is extraordinary. After weighing the pros and cons, Li Quanqing decided to comprehend the Cheyenne Dharma first. After all, the Zhenhe inheritance is the main practice of all cultivators in the Cheyenne Dao, representing the purest water avenue, vast and boundless, embracing all things in the world. Moreover, the 100,000 green jade carps have broken through one after another in recent years, and the Cheyenne spiritual liquid that has been accumulated in considerable quantities can also be transformed into a boost. 10 days later, with the help of the spiritual liquid, Li Quanqing initially comprehended the entry and comprehended a little bit of the Yuanying Dharma. In the Danshan, the Yuanying's little face was slightly serious, and his chubby little hands kept making seals. The magic power condensed into runes, flying around his body, as vast as the stars. According to the scriptures, unlike those mediocre Huishan sects, all cultivators are the same after they have cultivated the Yuanying Dharma. The Cheyenne inheritance is particularly extraordinary. It is the immortal scripture, which also expounds the avenue, but it is more in-depth and easy to understand. It can be said that it is tailor-made for cultivators. Even if they were practicing Cheyenne Dharma, each nascent soul cultivator had different appearances, representing the infinite changes of the great Dao. Li Quanqing watched intently, and was also very curious about what his own nascent soul Dharma would look like. As the nascent soul performed its secret technique, Its magic power condensed, a wisp of the great Dao aura permeated, and finally turned into a lifelike Xuanwu true form. Li Quanqing looked at the lazy big turtle, his eyes widened, and he almost cursed out loud. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He was so wise and powerful, and he was so talented. How could he have a fate with this dark 1,000-year-old turtle? Li Quanqing stared at this divine form, and the more he looked at it, the more familiar it looked. In the end, his expression became very unfriendly, and he gnashed his teeth. Longevity turtle, come out and get beaten. In the end, Li Quanqing was forced to accept this indisputable fact. If he practiced Xianai Dao, he would be born with a fate with turtles, and the nascent soul Dharma would condense, and could never be changed. Fortunately, this is not an ordinary 10,000-year-old turtle, but the legendary true spirit Xuanwu. Li Quanqing comforted himself like this. The tail of this turtle-shaped Dharma image is indeed in the shape of a python, wrapped around the turtle shell. It is the Xuanwu among the 4 true spirit beasts. Xuanwu, also known as Zhenwu, was born in the endless ocean, and was born to master the great way of water. Its limbs are like pillars supporting the sky, carrying the sky on its back. Li Quanqing's Yuanying Dharma image can manifest such a fairy spirit true form, which shows that he is very talented, and has a good affinity with the great way of water. Having said that, he still wanted to beat up the 10,000-year-old turtle to practice his hand feeling. At this moment, a jade pendant in Li Quanqing's storage magic weapon suddenly vibrated, and Li Kunlun's slightly urgent voice came out. There is a Yuanying cultivator attacking, suspected to be from the Nanling Xiuxin world, and wants to block the entire Gengjin Immortal city. After listening, Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect to meet such a guest from afar. He rose into the air, looking at the Gengjin star not far away, and suddenly saw a dark red pillar of fire rising into the sky, turning into a murderous aura, or 1,000 miles of red land. Chapter 379, The Fierce Power of Drought. This breath doesn't look like a living creature, but it's close to some kind of great evil creature. Li Quanqing looked at the end of the sky, and the flames rushed up into the sky, turning into a dark red cloud, releasing a high temperature comparable to the sun, burning the mountains, and boiling the sea. Although the breath is strange, it is indeed at the level of the nascent soul, reaching that kind of powerful and unpredictable power. Seeing this, Li Quanqing was not afraid, but eager to try. Now that he has broken the pill, and become an infant, he can use the blessing of the Whale King's holy armor. In terms of cultivation alone, he is enough to be comparable to a great cultivator in the middle stage of the nascent soul. It's just right to use a big battle, to announce the official rise of the nascent soul Li family to the entire East China Sea. Of course, Li Quanqing was very cautious. When he just got the news, he sent a message to the nascent soul cultivators of the 2 major sects. This fairy city is everyone's common property. You can't let him fight to the death alone, right? After making all preparations, Li Quanqing did not delay. He instantly turned into a beam of light, and flew out of the Qinghai cave heaven, crisscrossing the East China Sea. This was the first time in more than 30 years, that he had left his family. He finally didn't have to be bound anymore. He suddenly felt that the world was vast, and he had a lot to do. Although he liked to stay at home in the fish pond and never go out, it was his own free choice, not forced to do so, like being in prison. Li Quanqing was extremely fast, like a meteor streaking across the sky, and soon saw the scene of Gengjin Immortal City. A red-haired man was standing outside the formation, with a surging flame aura around him, and a sense of pressure spreading out, wanting to challenge the entire Immortal City with his own strength. It turns out that he is just a giant and cultivator. Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows, and his spiritual sense spread to explore, and instantly saw through the other party's identity. However, the giant and great perfection cultivation level can actually suppress the entire Gengjin Immortal City, leaving Li Kunlun and the others helpless. He glanced and instantly looked at the coffin on the man's back. It was dark red like blood, engraved with golden lines, like flames entangled, iron locks entangled, and made a clanging sound of metal collision. A powerful aura comparable to that of a Yuanying was released from the coffin, turning into a cloud of fire that covered the sky and blocked the entire fairy city. It was difficult for anyone to enter or leave. The moment Li Quanqing arrived, he was noticed by the red-haired man. He looked over with his pupils like a ray of light, and his fighting spirit was high, but he was also a little restrained. Is the one who comes here the patriarch of the Qingyu Li family, the powerful cultivator whose Gengjin is comparable to that of a Yuanying? The red-haired man spoke loudly, his voice as loud as a bell, and his body was full of flames, as if he was eager to try. Since you know my brilliant record, you still dare to come and provoke me. Do you want to step on my face and become famous in the East China Sea? Li Quanqing hovered above the sky, looking down, and seemed to be high above. Since he knew the other party's strength, he instantly felt much more at ease. It seems that he is a Gengjin cultivator with some confidence, born in the Nanling Xiuxin world, and has a trump card comparable to that of a Yuanying. Unfortunately, he has already broken the elixir and become an infant, and the two sides are no longer on the same level. Haha, as the rumors say, he is really unruly and a true child of destiny. Although the red-haired man wanted to take action, he restrained himself and began to explain his purpose. My name is Manhuan. I was born in the Nanling barbarian clan. There are several Yuanying in my clan. I have crossed thousands of miles of mountains and rivers to hunt down a Gengjin traitor. Li Quanqing listened calmly, his expression unchanged. Tell me your purpose. What do you want to do? Ha ha ha. Manhuan laughed. I have used the clan's secret method to determine that the traitor is hiding in this fairy city. I have searched for 10 days but found nothing. There are only a few secret places left, so I lured you out to meet him. Li Quanqing's heart was slightly moved when he heard it. The secret place this person mentioned must be the Qingyu Li family and the two Yuanying sects that are heavily guarded. There are many precious treasures hidden. It can be said that it is the most core building of the entire fairy city. If you want to explore it, you naturally need the order of him, the head of the Li family. Li Quanqing did not answer, but looked at the coffin. I have seen many Gengjin cultivators, but this is the most arrogant one. Is it because of the confidence given to you by this evil object? You are really brave to call the sacred object of my clan evil. Manhuan licked his lips and looked unkind. I have already found out your details. It's just relying on the sharpness of the spiritual treasure. If you lose to me, the profit of this fairy city will also be swallowed by my barbarian tribe. At this moment, the other party finally showed his fangs. Looking for traitors is just an excuse. The real purpose is to target the prosperous Qingchen fairy city. It is said that the climate in the Nanling Xiuxin world is hot and the environment is harsh. The cultivators who survive in it pay attention to the law of the jungle. When they see something they like, they will directly snatch it. It can be said that they fight every day. Qingyu Li was regarded as a soft fisherman by this barbarian cultivator. Then let's see the truth with our hands. Li Quanqing spoke indifferently, and the waves around him surged and swept, accompanied by the melodious whale roar, and he was covered with a layer of blue sacred armor. Manhuan looked slightly serious, and also felt a pressure. He took out a bone knife, and cut his palm, and instantly crimson blood gushed out. With my blood, I will sacrifice to the god of drought. The devil's flames will be raging, and burn the sky. Drops of blood dripped, and were instantly absorbed by the coffin. The chains rattled, and a crack opened instantly. Rumble. As the magic coffin opened, a raging flame rushed into the sky, and the heat wave rushed in, like a black and red sun rising slowly. Everyone saw that it was a fiery red devil zombie, with skin cracking like lava, flowing with dazzling flames. Just lying there was a monstrous fierceness. It's really a drought demon zombie. Li Quanqing was not surprised. This kind of demon is really famous. As early as the first time he saw the coffin, he had a guess in his mind. Let me show you the power of my barbarian holy relic. Manhuan grinned, and the beast tattoo on his cheek began to wriggle, looking quite ferocious, and even more bloodthirsty. Suddenly, he saw Li Quanqing raise his palm, and a silver light bloomed in the palm, and then disappeared in a flash. What is that? A trace of panic rose in Manhuan's heart. He was secretly on guard, but suddenly his eyebrows felt cold. Then a sharp pain came from all over his body. Even the golden elixir that was shining brightly was the same, and the pain was unbearable. What the hell is going on? Before a wisp of thought took shape, Manhuan's consciousness completely fell into the endless darkness. His whole body was directly split from head to toe, and was cut in half by a touch of silver light. His flesh and internal organs were separated, and his vitality was completely dissipated. The same happened to the perfectly polished golden elixir. It broke apart with a crackling sound, and the true spirit hidden in it had no time to resist and break free before it was crushed into powder by the power of the void. Tick-tock. It was only then that the void scissors appeared from behind Manhuan. A drop of blood dripped down the silver blade, stunning all the cultivators in the immortal city. Chapter 380 Barbarian Traitor. In the sky, Manhuan's body fell into the sea, his vitality dissipated, and his true spirit was destroyed. The waves carried countless fragments of internal organs, the fishy smell was rising to the sky, and the blood was dripping, dyeing a large area of the sea red. In Gengjin Immortal City, all the cultivators were stunned, and it was hard to believe what they saw. This guy was so rampant and shameless. He came from a big family in Nanling, and carried a fierce and powerful Hanba demon zombie, which was enough to compete with Yuanying cultivators. Everyone was waiting for him to show his power, and control the demon zombie to have a hearty and evenly matched Yuanying battle. But what was the result? Many cultivators didn't see what happened at all, and didn't even react at all. This guy died directly. It was extremely disappointing. If this was a paid battle, I'm afraid everyone would have shouted for a refund at this time. Clang! Exclamation mark. The space was shining with a sharp light, and Li Quanqing stretched out his hand to summon the void scissors, like two silver white slender dragons circling and entwining. This result was not unexpected. As a dignified Yuanying ancestor, with the power of a 4th level spiritual treasure, if he can't kill a mere giant and cultivator in seconds, then he's cultivating immortals for nothing. Although this person is dead, the trouble he left behind is still there. Li Quanqing looked down at the Hanba demon zombie sleeping in the coffin. This guy has revived at this time, and the demonic energy is surging, and the land is red. Continue to sleep. The East China Sea is not a place for you to run wild. Li Quanqing's palm fell, and the sea water surged out in an instant, turning into a giant palm covering the sky, ready to suppress this monster. Roar. Hanba was unwilling to give up. He smelled the strong smell of blood in the air, his eyes were red, and he let out a deafening roar, ready to jump out of the coffin. As expected of a Yuanying demon zombie, just a roar was earth-shaking. Hearing this, many cultivators' blood and ki surged, their mouths were dry, as if they were about to burn out of their bodies with nameless flames, burning their blood, bones and magic power. Seal. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged in the void, trying his best to resist. The shy and magic power around him swept out, standing in the East China Sea, which was endless. In order to show his prestige, he even summoned his own nascent soul, and suspended it on the Xianling bone. His face was serious, his appearance was solemn, and he exuded a circle of aqua blue divine light. Nascent soul. The head of the Li family has formed a nascent soul. The rumors are true, and I'm not lying to you. Another huge monster will be born in the East China Sea. Seeing this 3-inch baby, the cultivators of the entire Gengjin Immortal City instantly fell into a boiling and frenzy. The giant and cultivators of the Xingqian sect and the Sihei sect who were in charge of this city were also shocked, and then they became respectful, with deep envy in their hearts. Li Kunlun knew about it a few days ago, and he was not surprised at this time. Instead, he felt a strong sense of relief and pride. With the Whale King holy armor and the blessing of the boundless East China Sea, Li Quanqing's strength is now comparable to that of the middle stage of the nascent soul, and he easily resealed the demon zombie that has not yet fully recovered. Iron chains rattled and wrapped around the coffin, causing it to fall into a deep sleep again, no longer restless. Drought demon fire. Li Quanqing breathed a sigh of relief, and at the same time, looked at the fire clouds that had not yet dissipated around him. His soul swept out, like a big hand stirring, compressing the demonic energy together. Swish. Finally, a ball of dark red flame burned in his palm, emitting a strong high temperature, enough to dry up rivers and turn the earth into scorched earth. We can let the dragon flame eagle try to refine it, and use the 4th level flame essence in it to break through the bottleneck of the middle stage of the golden core. Li Quanqing had a plan in mind, and a wisp of mana bloomed from his fingertips, starting to purify the demonic energy contained in it. The dragon flame eagle's bloodline has little potential. After breaking through the golden core, it becomes difficult to practice. Now, 30 years have passed, and it is still stuck in the early stage of the golden core. This drought demon zombie is actually a great opportunity for him. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged in the sky quietly. The entire Gengjin Immortal city fell into a state of calm. No one dared to make a sound, fearing to anger this Yuanying ancestor. For the current world of immortal cultivation, it is difficult to find a god. The Yuanying great cultivator is a real god, and his words can determine the life and death of hundreds of millions of cultivators. In the end, it was Li Quanqing who opened the formation, and took several members of the Li family, to take away Manhuan's body and storage magic weapons, leaving them for Li Quanqing to check later. Crash. The sea water surged, and a silver light suddenly appeared in the deepest part. The spatial fluctuations dissipated, and then the rich Taiyin aura bloomed. It's finally here. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the coffin, watching a round of Taiyin moon rising from the bottom of the sea. It was very fast, and reached the surface of the sea in an instant. The moonlight was cold. Little friend Quanqing, are you okay? Taiyin Gengjin saw the blood in the sea, that had not yet dispersed, and then looked at Li Quanqing who was unharmed, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. But after a moment, she noticed the latter's current cultivation level, and was immediately shocked. The moonlight around her body was waving. You have successfully completed the infant? It was just luck. I just survived the disaster recently, and am now stabilizing. Now I have just broken through the barrier. Li Quanqing smiled slightly. Although he said it lightly, everyone knew the danger of life and death. Even though he had expected it, Taiyin Gengjin was still a little shocked. It was really that he broke through too quickly. 30 years passed in the blink of an eye. It was really not worth mentioning. What made her more concerned was Li Quanqing's background. There was no support from the Yuanying sect behind him. It can be said that he was about the same as those casual cultivators. In the past 500 years, there were only Li Quanqing and the ancestor of the Xiangguifang family who could break through the pill and become an infant with such a humble background. However, Taiyin Gengjin soon became happy. The young man in front of him was born to fit in with the Sihei sect. Now that he has broken through to the nascent soul stage, there is no doubt that the 4C sect will become stronger and stronger and complete the plan to dominate the East China Sea as soon as possible. Fellow Daoist Quanqing has successfully broken through. According to convention, it is necessary to announce it to the entire East China Sea and hold a nascent soul ceremony. After all, the Li family does not have enough connections. How about letting the 4C sect handle this matter? Taiyin Gengjin took the initiative to propose, dispersing the moon veil, revealing a face that is stunningly beautiful, with a fairy-like appearance and divine bones, as beautiful as a jade fairy, and a cold and elegant temperament. Then I'll trouble you. Li Quanqing did not resist building a good relationship with the 4C sect, and in the future he was going to occupy the magpie's nest and take the Xianzanding. Not long after, the demon's engine of the Xingqian sect also came, and was shocked again after learning that he had broken through. Li Quanqing took this opportunity to tell them about the Hanba demon zombie and the Nanling barbarians. If the other party's nascent soul attacked, he could not be left alone. I have also heard of this tribe. They have 3 nascent soul cultivators. They are well known and are ranked in the top 10 in the Nanling cultivation world. However, now that fellow Daoist is an ally of my Xian Dao, there is naturally no need to be afraid. Just kill a giant ant. Taiyin Gengjin's voice was cold. He was also a decisive guy. He even wanted to win over Li Quanqing to join the 4C sect and become the supreme elder. In this way, the entire 4C sect had 6 nascent souls engines. Zenmo's engine saw the 4C sect grow stronger and also wanted to get close to it, so he took on the responsibility. Nanling is far away in the sky. If they really dare to attack, it will be a war with the entire East China Sea cultivation world, but they are not afraid. Li Quanqing heard the words and immediately felt full of confidence. He put the Hanba demon zombie into the Hanhei bowl and collected the spoils with peace of mind. The 3 nascent soul cultivators talked for a while. After confirming that there was no danger, they dispersed. They all had things to do and were powerful in the sect. As for Li Quanqing's nascent soul ceremony, at present, there is no rush. It will take at least several years to prepare. In order to show its strength, The 4C sect will definitely prepare for a grand ceremony, so that it will be famous in the East China Sea, and show the former glory of Xiandao. In addition, the Star sect also invited him to go and see it to build a good relationship. Li Quanqing also agreed, and even wanted to go to the mainland, to see what the Changsheng Immortal dynasty looked like, and thank Zhao Qian for his help. After seeing off the two Taoist friends, Li Quanqing landed, and came to Gengjin Immortal City, looking at this prosperous Zeuxan market. Gengjin Star has been located for more than 30 years, and this is the first time he has seen it with his own eyes. He only feels that the number of cultivators is comparable to the sand on the seashore. Quanqing, this is a relic of that Manhuan. There is also a spirit beast bag in it, and there is also the breath of living things in it. You should be interested. Li Kunlun came up and handed him a few items, knowing that this junior's favorite is all kinds of rare and exotic animals. Upon hearing this, Li Quanqing immediately put away the treasures. He wondered if he could see the unique monsters of the Nanling cultivation world. Besides that, didn't the Gengjin cultivator say he was here to capture the traitors in the clan? This is true. Just now, there was a cultivator who was a worshipper recruited by our Li family before. He took the initiative to confess and was willing to offer treasures to seek your protection. Li Kunlun spoke up next, with a helpless look on his face. In recent years, the strength of the Li family has expanded greatly, and it has also attracted many cultivators to join them. I didn't expect that this kind of thing would happen. Traitor of the barbarian tribe, take me to see him. Li Quanqing nodded, somewhat curious about what kind of treasure could attract such a powerful Gengjin cultivator like Manhuan to track him across thousands of miles. I hope he won't be disappointed. Chapter 381 5th Level Heavenly Goo. Li Quanqing walked in Gengjin Immortal City, looking at this immortal cultivation market that had only been nurtured for a few decades, which was far more prosperous than he had imagined. There were glows of spiritual arrays and magic weapons everywhere. Cultivators came and went, and tall buildings stood in a forest. Accompanied by the roar of spiritual beasts, it was quite lively. They did not hide their figures. Wherever they passed, they immediately received many awe-inspiring eyes. They did not even dare to look directly at him, fearing that they would anger the newly promoted Yuanying ancestor. Following Li Kunlun, Li Quanqing came to the Li family's residence in the Immortal City, and immediately saw a large group of palaces unfolding in front of him, undulating and continuous. Compared with Qingyu Cave Heaven, this place is undoubtedly more noisy, with dragons and snakes living together. In addition to the Li family members who came out to experience and run the Immortal City, there are also many recruited offerings, dragging their families. It is so lively. That barbarian monk who escaped from Nanling is this person. Li Quanqing came to the main hall and immediately saw a man kneeling there respectfully. He looked like a rather haggard middle-aged man, with a smell of herbs and a bit of bookish air. This person is in the late stage of foundation building. He used a pseudonym before, claiming to be a second-level alchemist. He does have many skills, and has even participated in the refining of foundation building pills several times. Li Kunlun transmitted his voice in secret, and told him everything that had happened over the years. Although this person had a good talent for alchemy, he was quite introverted and low-key. He rarely interacted with other alchemists or monks. Therefore, Li Kunlun did not remember much about him. He had only seen him a few times. Who knew that he was so hidden? You've been deceived. Li Quanqing only took a look at this person, and saw through the truth. He shook his head slightly. This guy's not a foundation building cultivator, but a real Gengjin cultivator. In real combat, he may not be much weaker than you. What? He is actually a Gengjin cultivator. Li Kunlun was extremely surprised when he heard this. He had already carefully investigated several times, but still could not see through this guy's disguise. No matter how you look at it, he is just an ordinary foundation building alchemist, mediocre, and has been hiding in the Li family for more than 10 years. At this point, are you still going to hide? Li Quanqing pointed out a wisp of magic power, instantly breaking through the man's secret disguise, revealing the breath of the middle stage of the Gengjin, as hot as a flame. Ancestor Quanqing has immeasurable divine power, and overwhelms the East China Sea. I'm convinced. I only wish to join the Li family in this life and work like a cow and a horse to repay the grace of saving my life today. This person knelt in the hall and said loudly. His words were sincere, and he looked like a man who would die for his confidant. His secret technique was broken, and the disguise on his face also disappeared, revealing his true face. His hair and beard were fiery red, and there was also a monster tattoo on his face, revealing a wild and fierce aura. Li Quanqing ignored it, and thought that this guy was talking nonsense. He was just desperate, and wanted to work for him, and seek his protection. Tell me about your origins. Li Quanqing sat at the top of the hall, overlooking this person. Just a ray of yuanying pressure burst out, and it was like a mountain pressing down on the top of the head. The air in the whole hall was full of majesty. The divine power was like a prison. This barbarian traitor trembled, his face turned pale in an instant, and beads of sweat dripped down. I dare not hide it from you, my ancestor. My name is Manming. I was born in the Nanling immortal cultivation world. I'm a lower class member of the Yuanying barbarian clan. I have been humiliated since I was a child. Manming did not dare to hide it. He started to talk endlessly as soon as he opened his mouth, as if he wanted to tell all the causes and consequences, and explain how miserable his life was, and how he was forced to do so. Enough, I'm not interested in these. Just tell me, why did you betray the barbarian clan, and be hunted down? Li Quanqing looked cold, and shouted like thunder, which instantly exploded in the hall, like thunderbolt. Manming was able to cultivate from a lower class member to the Golden Core Avenue, so he was naturally not a fool. He talked so much just now, and said a lot of nonsense, just to show his sincerity and to indicate that he had told everything without reservation. At this time, he showed a flattering smile, restrained his expression, and told the most important cause and effect. I dare not hide it from my ancestor. The evil man who had pursued tens of millions of miles of mountains and rivers, and refused to let go. In fact, it was all because I had stolen a 5th level poisonous insect from my clan before. It can be regarded as a treasure of my clan. Therefore, I committed a heinous crime, and had to hide my identity. 5th level poisonous insect? Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows. This kind of strange poisonous insect, like the level of monsters, all ranges from the lowest level of 1 to the highest level of 5. If this kind of poisonous insect is only considered in terms of power, it is enough to rival the venerable of transformation. It is hard to find in the world. No wonder it attracted this guy Manhuan, who carried the Hanba demon zombie across the domain to track it. This 5th level poisonous insect is a treasure you are going to offer to my ancestor? Li Quanqing's voice was light, not very concerned, and his interest was reduced by half. It is said to be a 5th level spiritual insect. I'm afraid it must have great defects, and it is not certain whether it is dead or alive. Otherwise, this guy would have dominated the world of immortal cultivation with this item. Why would he be afraid of being hunted down by the Yuanying level and still want to join the Li family? The ancestor has a keen eye. The 5th level poisonous insect is precious and hard to find. I'm afraid there is only one in the entire world of immortal cultivation. The junior specially prepared to present it to the ancestor, just to ask the Li family for protection, so that the body can be kept, so as not to be caught, and brought back to the clan, skinned and pulled out, and the soul must be extracted and used to light the sky lantern. This person looked bleak and pleading. When he was moved, he even shed 2 tears and cried loudly. Li Quanqing was amazed in his heart. This guy's really a talent. No wonder he has not been beaten to death until now. His acting skills are really good. Take it out, and let's see what kind of poisonous insect it is. Respect the ancestor's will. Manming wiped his tears, carefully took out something from the spirit beast bag, held it solemnly in his palm, and treasured it. Li Quanqing and the others looked at it, and saw a round stone that was as red as blood. The surface had strange patterns, and no vitality or magic power. It was ordinary. Except for the round shape and deep color, it was no different from the stones you can see on the roadside. There was nothing special about it. Is this the 5th level goo worm? Li Quanqing sighed slightly, and he almost had the urge to slap this person to death. Manming also looked embarrassed. Over the years, he had tried to crack the secret of the 5th level goo worm, but he also got nothing. If it weren't for the fact that several elders of the barbarian tribe attached great importance to it, and the tribe had offered sacrifices to it, and the monks in the tribe had hunted it down again and again, He would have thought that this thing was just an ordinary stone. Divine objects are naturally hidden. Old ancestor, don't underestimate this thing. It is the famous 5th level heavenly goo, the ancient blood centipede. The founder of the Zoo sect, one of the ancestral sects of the demon sect, once had a shocking battle with our barbarian ancestor, who had become a god, in order to obtain this goo. The battle was so fierce that the sun and moon lost their light, and the sky collapsed, and the earth cracked. When the time came, Man Ming could only bite the bullet and praise the goo in his hand to the sky, in order to save his reputation. Chapter 382, Fire Swallowing Toad. Ancient Blood Centipede. Li Quanqing muttered the name, and couldn't help sighing in his heart. So the so-called 5th level goo worm is a big centipede that can suck blood. Ahem. Ancestor Quanqing, you can't say that. This goo is a divine creature born and raised by nature, but it is just reborn in the body of a centipede. In essence, it is the incarnation of the rules of the Great Way. Man Ming gritted his teeth, and continued to speak, searching his brain, and recounting all the barbarian classics he had read. I'll believe you for now. Li Quanqing shook his head, and looked at this blood-colored stone the size of a chicken egg. The patterns on the surface were entangled, and it really looked like a centipede coiled in a circle. He extended a ray of Yuan Ying's divine consciousness, wanting to carefully explore this blood centipede goo, but he didn't expect that he was actually blocked. The invisible and intangible divine consciousness was blocked at the outermost part of the stone, and it was difficult to advance an inch. The scene in the depths was enough to block the prying of Yuan Ying's engine. It is indeed somewhat magical. This guy's not talking nonsense. It is indeed a precious heavenly goo, but it is hard to say whether it is dead or alive. Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows and had some guesses in his mind and became a little interested. Although it may be a real 5th level goo worm, it has no vitality and has been exhausted long ago. It can be said to be a dead thing. It is even worse than the lotus seed of his 5-colored treasure lotus. The real vitality is gone, and there is no possibility of resurrection. I think this is also the reason why the barbarians don't pay much attention to it. Otherwise, how could a 5th level goo worm with the foundation of the divine transformation venerable be stolen by a giant and cultivator, and the one sent to hunt it down as a character like Manhuan? If they really valued it, I believe that a great Yuan Ying cultivator of the barbarians would have personally taken action to directly wipe out the soul and spirit, and take back the sacred object of the tribe. After getting a glimpse of the truth, Li Quanqing became uninterested again. This ancient sky goo has a great origin. I wonder what its function is? Report to the ancestors. This goo insect carries the great way of blood, born and raised by nature, born extraordinary, can refine the blood of all spirits, trace the ancient glory of ancestors, and reappear in the world. Man Ming slightly serious. This time he was not bragging, but telling the truth. After all, the elders of the tribe have taught them this since they were young, and almost every barbarian has heard it so many times. Refine blood, trace the roots. Tell me in detail. Li Quanqing pondered these words, and had a slight guess in his mind. For example, a group of giant monsters have extraordinary bloodlines. Their ancestors may be traced back to a Yuan Ying or even a Huashan monster, or even a legendary true spirit beast. They are powerful and unpredictable, but unfortunately their descendants' bloodlines are gradually becoming thinner. The ancient blood centipede sky poison can purify the blood of the legendary Huashan monster by swallowing the blood of these giant monsters. This effect is indeed extraordinary, and it can be said to be an original manifestation of the great Dao of blood. No wonder it can drive the founder of the Blood River sect crazy and start a war with the barbarians to fight for it. Man Ming stroked the blood-colored stone ball in his hand, with a sigh and a hint of pride. Looking back to the ancient times, my barbarian ancestors used this goo to extract the blood of many divine beasts, refined it into their bodies, and became powerful and unpredictable. With these great demon powers, they could even compete with Yan Shen Dao. Unfortunately, in my eyes now, this is just the corpse of a goo worm, with no vitality left, only the wreckage. Li Quanqing shook his head, and there was not much regret in his words. There is no such thing as immortality in this world. No matter how gorgeous you are, you will eventually become a handful of yellow earth. Even the legendary immortals are not immortal. Just like the sun in the sky, there will also be a day when they fall into silence. Perhaps the only thing that is truly immortal is the concept of time itself, or the rules of the dark, which runs through billions of Hengsha worlds. Ancestor, you are wrong. The blood demon is immortal. The avenue of blood represents the most fundamental vitality of all living things, even plants. The trunks of trees have meridians and blood-like juice essence flowing through them. I have studied this blood centipede for decades. This sky goo is also immortal. Now it is just in a long sleep. There will be a day when it will be awakened again. Man Ming held this blood-colored stone in his hand, and a hint of enthusiasm appeared on his face. Then, I ask you, what is the price? What should be done to revive this ancient blood centipede and wake up again? If Li Quanqing can raise a living sky goo, it will also be a rare opportunity in the world. After all, goo worms are also a kind of demon beasts, and will be recognized by the golden finger and open precious light balls as rewards. According to my speculation, it should be a sacrifice of a powerful blood, to revive this goo through vigorous vitality. Man Ming was silent for a moment and spoke. He had seen in ancient books that in ancient times, the barbarians were strong. Whenever a war ended, they would offer sacrifices to this blood centipede to maintain its immortality. Powerful blood, do you mean the blood of the god transforming venerable? Li Quanqing sighed. The barbarians have several Yuanying's engines sitting in charge. There is no pressure to sacrifice the goo worm, to slaughter a 4th level monster. But after so many years, it still has not been awakened, which shows that the effect of Yuanying blood is not strong enough. It should be, and it also needs fresh and large amounts of god transforming blood, to make up for the loss of the blood centipede for hundreds of thousands of years. After all, my barbarian tribe has a foundation. My ancestors once left some blood of the god transforming monster. It was consumed in history, and offered sacrifices several times, but unfortunately it failed in the end. Man Ming looked a little embarrassed. He had also been on the run for so many years, and he figured out what a bad 5th level heavenly goo he had stolen. Unfortunately, the arrow has been shot, and there is no turning back. Since it has been stolen, even if he wants to return it, returning to the tribe is a dead end, and he can only go all the way. It's tasteless to eat, but a pity to throw it away. In the end, Li Quanqing could only leave such a conclusion, and he had no hope of reviving the blood centipede. He could kill the spirit creatures and use fresh blood for sacrifice, so would he lack the help of a 5th level goo worm? What's more, now that the world is broken and all living things have stopped at the nascent soul stage, he can't kill a great demon of the spirit. Li Quanqing took the blood centipede Shan goo, played with it for a while, and threw it into the Hanhei bowl, treating it the same as the lotus seeds of the 5-colored treasure lotus. They are all the worst of the worst. From now on, you will stay in the fairy city, and be a worshipper of the Li family. Li Quanqing took a look at this guy, and then made a decision. The Li family's foundation is too weak. After he breaks through the nascent soul stage, it is time to recruit a few giant and monks as worshippers, to expand their strength and seize territory. Now that another Jiazi beast tide is coming, the Qingyu Li family has been promoted to a nascent soul clan, and it really needs to improve its strength as soon as possible. Anyway, with the Ice Phoenix puppet in hand, plus the Hanba demon puppet, even if he is not in the family, the old patriarch and his people have the confidence to suppress these giant and cultivators. Thank you, ancestor, for your help. Man Ming heard this, and his face was immediately full of joy. Although he was very sorry to lose a 5th level poisonous insect, his life was still important. Li Quanqing didn't care. He took out the spirit beast bag left by Manhuan, opened it after breaking the spiritual imprint, and immediately saw a fiery red toad in the blazing flames. This is a 4th level poisonous insect, a fire-swallowing toad. Man Ming saw this monster and exclaimed, recognizing the origin of this poisonous insect. Chapter 383 Dragon Sculpture Breakthrough. Fire-swallowing toad? Li Quanqing looked at the demon goo in front of him. Its skin was as red as fire, its abdomen was swollen, its body was covered with flame patterns, and its eyes were bright. It looked very majestic. Although it had been in the spirit beast bag for a long time, it still looked energetic, staring with its big eyes, staring at him stubbornly. Fire swallowing and flame eating. Fire swallowing toad. Let's have a hearty flame duel, Gugua. All the flames in the world are nothing but my food. Cultivation. Late Chindan, 35%. Words appeared in front of Li Quanqing. It has been a long time since he raised a new demon beast, showing the cultivation and status of this fire-swallowing toad. Report to the ancestor. This is a fire toad born and raised by nature. It is a kind of goo worm. It can swallow all the fires in the world. The grade is as high as the 4th grade. It is extremely precious. Man Ming did not dare to hide it. He spoke everything, with a trace of envy hidden in his eyes. This is a powerful poisonous insect that can rival the true Lord Yuanying. It is especially good at dealing with cultivators with fire spiritual roots, and can be called the nemesis of cultivators in Nanling. The south is associated with fire. Most of the humans and monsters living in the Nanling domain are also of fire attribute, and have been dealing with flames all their lives. Li Quanqing did not comment, and stroked the toad poisonous insect. Even though the flames rose and burned fiercely, it was still difficult to hurt him. How can this poisonous insect break through the 4th level Yuanying? He asked. The fire-swallowing toad is now in the late giant stage. If you want to collect the light ball reward, you can only wait for it to survive the heavenly tribulation and become a demon king. The cultivation method of this goo worm is extremely simple. You only need to feed it the spiritual fire and magic flames of the Zeuxan world, and it will be able to absorb the power from them and break through the level of evolution. Man Ming paused for a moment and continued. Of course, if you want the fire-swallowing toad to successfully break through the nascent soul, you need to feed it more of those legendary 4th level fire seeds. Gugwa. At this point, the fire-swallowing toad made a loud frog sound, opened its mouth and spit out a dark red flame with a demonic aura. It was the Hanba demon fire. After the fire of the demon fire left its body, the original strong momentum of the fire-swallowing toad suddenly fell, and the color of its skin became much lighter. The toad opened its mouth wide, as if to demonstrate, and made the action of swallowing and biting the flame, indicating that it wanted more powerful fire seeds. Then, it swallowed the Hanba demon fire into its stomach again. Its abdomen bulged, and it made a loud chirping sound, and then it squinted its eyes comfortably. Why do I feel that the goo worms of your barbarian tribe are all the same pitfalls? Li Quanqing sighed slightly. It was really tasteless to eat, but it was a pity to throw them away. The blood centipede goo needed fresh blood of the spirit, and the fire-swallowing toad was a precious and powerful 4th level fire seed. They were all big consumers of resources, and ordinary Yuanying's engine couldn't afford to support them, even if they spent all their money. Upon hearing this, Man Ming couldn't help but smile embarrassedly. If the goo worms were powerful and didn't need too many resources, I'm afraid the barbarians would have unified Nanling long ago. Why would they be inferior to Yan Shendao? Li Quanqing played with the fire-swallowing toad and was surprised to find that this goo worm could also purify the power of the fire seed, which was indeed extraordinary. After the matter was settled, Man Ming stayed in Gengjin Immortal City and became the first giant and realm worshipper of the Li family, seeking blessings. His alchemy skills were very strong. In fact, he had reached the level of a 3rd level alchemist. Now he was helping the Li family to train alchemists, which was quite useful. Riding on the waves of the East China Sea, Li Quanqing returned to the Jade Cave Heaven, sitting cross-legged on the embankment, watching the groups of green carps in the pond, leisurely and contented. Sitting and watching the scenery of the fish pond, the heart follows the ripples, and is at peace. For no reason, this sentence emerged in Li Quanqing's mind, and this scene complement each other. In the past few days, the joy of surviving the heavenly tribulation and breaking the elixir to become an infant has gradually dissipated and turned into a calmness like water again, and the mood is as quiet as a pond. Gugwa. Gugwa gwa. Unfortunately, the sound of frogs one after another broke the rare tranquility at this time. Beogwang toad jumped out from nowhere and circled around the fire-swallowing toad. Its golden body and the red flame set off each other, which was quite visually impactful. The two spirit toads looked at each other, and they were very interested in each other. They sniffed here and touched there, and the sound of frogs was endless, which seemed very noisy. Although the fire-swallowing toad can swallow and store the spiritual fire of heaven and earth, like the treasure-light toad, its combat power is not strong, and both belong to the bottom of the monsters. Li Quanqing looked a little strange. These two toads are all alien species of heaven and earth, not ordinary monsters. Nothing will happen in the end, right? He was too lazy to think too much. He took the drought demon fire and refined all the demonic energy in it. It can be handed over to the dragon flame eagle for cultivation. The vast sea bowl was shrouded in a rosy glow, and its momentum kept rising. It began to evolve towards a 4th level spiritual treasure, and gave birth to a wisp of ignorant instrument spirit. Li Quanqing jumped into it, and saw clouds and mist, and the spiritual energy was dense. The area of the entire vast sea cave was opening up towards nothingness, and the sea level kept falling. The happiest one among them was naturally the void butterfly, which kept flapping its wings, absorbing the abundant power of space, and exuding waves of satisfaction. This guy is about to face the 4th level heavenly tribulation. Li Quanqing retracted his gaze with some emotion. The void butterfly has a strong bloodline and extraordinary talent. It also once obtained the demon pill of the nascent soul great demon splitting sky python. Its cultivation speed over the years is not much slower than his. Now it is about to reach the golden core great perfection and seek a chance to break through. It is considered the most powerful one among the spirit beasts. In addition, the one with the highest cultivation is Aoking, who practices hard day and night, worships the moon and practices, and calls the wind and rain. The mysterious ice phoenix is on par with it. The dragon and the phoenix sing in harmony, slowly and firmly moving towards the late stage of the golden core. As for the 3 great demons, the dragon flame eagle, the wind and thunder python king, and the Kanghe whale, they are still trapped in the early stage of the golden core. Due to the bottleneck, their bloodlines are not particularly amazing. Li Quanqing gave the Hanba demon fire to the dragon flame eagle. This guy bathed in magma and polished his body with the power of the top grade fire spirit stone. He was naturally delighted to see this wisp of fire, and his demonic energy was ready to move. Should we bury the Hanba here? Li Quanqing looked at the volcanic island under his feet. After thinking about it, he gave up. It was too dangerous. The Hanba demon zombie cultivated by the barbarians is very powerful, at least comparable to the middle stage of the infant Yuan. It has been cultivated for nearly 10,000 years, and is extremely fierce. Finally, Li Quanqing temporarily buried the demon coffin on the Zuchan island. The ice and snow were freezing, and the 4th level ice phoenix puppet was left to guard it. With the help of the power of Zuanming, it was sealed, and finally the Hanba was completely put to sleep. After doing everything, Li Quanqing went to visit the wooden peacock. Unfortunately, this guy was still studying the 5 spirits sutra and there was no sign of Dan. But it was not completely unchanged. The peacock demon began to grow 5 kinds of feathers, red, green, yellow, white, and black, all over his body. Obviously, he was trying to revive the blood of the 5 element of the peacock in his body. He was very ambitious, and a circle of 5 color feathers grew on his forehead, with bright colors. Li Quanqing also left the 5 color treasure lotus. Anyway, it couldn't be planted for the time being, so it was better to leave it to the wooden peacock for practice. As for the younger Yulin beast, it had already surpassed it at this time. It had perfected its cultivation and turned into a stone fetus. It went into the depths of the 4th order spiritual veins of the green jade cave heaven and went into seclusion for half a year. The dragon flame eagle did not disappoint Li Quanqing. It refined the 4th order fire seed and successfully broke through in just 2 months. Chapter 384 Zuanwu Divine Light. On the Red Dragon Island, hot magma flowed everywhere, thick smoke billowed, and the flames were vigorous. The dragon flame eagle flew up from the volcano, making a high-pitched bird cry, which was piercing golden cracking rocks. It was full of demonic energy, and attacked the middle stage of the golden core. Finally, it successfully broke through the middle stage of the golden core, flapped its wings and flew, and magma dripped between its feathers, emitting bursts of white smoke. Between the hard iron feathers, wisps of white mist rose up, and finally condensed into a ball of light, crystal clear. Harvest a middle stage of the golden core dragon flame eagle, and reward the inheritance of the 4th level refining technique. Li Quanqing touched the ball of light with his spiritual consciousness, and immediately found that the reward was the 100 arts of immortal cultivation that had not appeared for a long time. The grade was quite high, even many Yuanian cultivators did not master it. The dragon flame eagle danced around the clouds, and flames soared into the sky, dyeing the sky red, like the blazing sun sinking at the end of the sky. Finally, it even soared into the sky from the vast sea bowl, breaking free from the constraints of the magic weapon in this space, soaring in the entire Qinggai cave heaven, releasing its pressure to its heart's content. After this guy's joy was vented, Li Quanqing called it over, took away the ball of light and crushed it. The moment the ball of light was broken, a vast amount of knowledge suddenly emerged, like a rolling torrent, pouring into his sea of consciousness. In the dungeon, the Yuanying little man opened his eyes, and countless characters seemed to appear in his pupils, accompanied by countless patterns, and began to accept and digest this knowledge. A 4th level weapon refiner is already the pinnacle of the world, and can refine powerful and rare Yuanying spiritual treasures. Especially now that the practice of the longevity path is prevalent, many Gengjin monks who are about to end their lifespans are seeking to place their true spirits in magic weapons, to break through the Yuanying realm. The strategic value of a 4th level weapon refiner can be imagined. However, for Yuanying's engine of the same level, everyone has their own life treasures refined by themselves, so they don't ask much from the weapon refiner. There is actually a method to refine the 5 Thunder Luo umbrella. I can repair this secret treasure for the tribulation and leave it to the Void Butterfly and the clan members. After Li Quanqing mastered this knowledge, he suddenly became a little happy. He didn't expect there would be an unexpected surprise. This inheritance records the refining methods of 5 Yuanying spirit treasures in total, including the 5 Thunder Luo umbrella. Li Quanqing took a quick look and frowned immediately. The materials needed to refine these spirit treasures were too luxurious, and many of them were extinct in the human world. In fact, since he broke through the Gengjin, he rarely refined weapons. The Li family's foundation was too weak, and it was difficult to collect enough spiritual materials. This is also the dilemma of these high-level alchemists and weapon refiners in the current world of cultivation. There is no rich resource environment like in ancient times, which can provide them with luxury and practice. Those precious treasures that were collected with great effort. If there is a mistake in any link, it may be difficult to collect them in the rest of my life. Although the cracks in the mirror umbrella are not big, it actually requires 5 kinds of 4th level silk or spider silk, corresponding to the 5 element, and interwoven into one strand. Li Quanqing was slightly helpless. It was much more difficult than he imagined. There were 5 Yuanying demons that could produce spiritual silk, and they also needed to correspond to different bloodline attributes. I'm afraid that only by searching the entire demon clan can they be collected. It was not until then that Li Quanqing realized how amazing the spiritual treasure that the golden finger awarded him was. After sorting out this refining inheritance, Li Quanqing returned to the fish pond and began to comprehend the Cheyenne inheritance engraved in his flesh and blood, trying to condense the Yuanying Dharma. Now he feels too busy. He needs to consider the future Yuanying cultivation path, and he also needs to comprehend the 2 dharmas of Cheyenne and Bahai. Now he has comprehended the 4th level refining technique. I really felt that I was too busy to do anything, and there was not enough time. I couldn't even lie flat, so I was forced to open the book. That day, Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the embankment, and his nascent soul appeared on his head. His face was serious, and his hands kept making seals. The power of the Cheyenne River surged, and runes emerged one after another, evolving into a scene of thousands of feet of waves. The waves rolled and spread in all directions, making a rumbling sound. In the undulating sea, a black tortoise beast emerged, like a sky-supporting beast. Its appearance became clearer and clearer. The tortoise shell on its back was covered with ancient patterns, as if it remembered some kind of power of the great Dao. Li Quanqing seemed to be very compatible with Cheyenne Dharma. They were born close to each other, and his practice was very smooth. Now he has officially entered the door. As the black tortoise Dharma appeared behind him, the tortoise shell patterns were glowing, as if activated, and a ray of dark black light flowed out. The mysterious light swallowed and spit, and the breath of the great Dao bloomed. Everything around was instantly stagnant, and the dust floating in the air was frozen at this moment. Even Li Quanqing's thoughts were the same. There was a moment of stillness, and only after a moment did he break free, with some kind of shock. What kind of power is this? The mysterious light dissipated, the beast disappeared, and the Yuanying Dharma image began to break into pieces, and dissipated between heaven and earth. Li Quanqing was shocked to find that the magic power contained in his Yuanying had disappeared by 1/10. The feeling just now was right. When the Xuanwu Dharma image was successfully condensed, everything in the world fell into a state of stillness, and time seemed to be stagnant as well. Li Quanqing fell into deep thought. The Cheyenne inheritance was running, and a name automatically emerged and flowed in his mind. The moving and static divine light. It can also be called the Xuanwu divine light, the Zhenwu Zhuanggang, which is the most powerful innate magical power of the Xuanwu beast clan. Wherever the divine light passes, all things in the world will fall into absolute stillness, just like mosquitoes in amber, unable to move. Since there is a word move, doesn't it mean that this divine light can also speed up everything, but I haven't developed it yet? Cheyenne Dharma image clearly represents the purest avenue of water. Why does this kind of magical power appear? It seems to be related to time. Li Quanqing was puzzled. The Cheyenne inheritance is really vast, and it is a real immortal scripture. What he has comprehended now is just the tip of the iceberg. Even so, it is still enough to make him dominate the Yuanian cultivators and be invincible at the same level. Li Quanqing refined the sky-filled essence and restored his own mana. He wanted to continue to comprehend the Xuanwu divine light and strive to apply it in battle as soon as possible. In the battle between Yuanying, the winner can be decided between Zumi. If the opponent can be made to stop for a moment, the destructive power can be imagined. Just as he was about to continue practicing, a demonic energy suddenly rushed to the sky from the depths of the earth's spiritual veins, as heavy as a mountain, and turned into a yellow cloud blooming in the sky, pure as jade. In an instant, Li Quanqing realized the source of this demonic energy. It was the jade scale beast that was practicing in seclusion, and now it was about to condense a demon pill. As the jade scale beast awakened and broke through, the sky was filled with rosy clouds, as if it was combined with the entire 4th level spiritual vein, like a dragon turning over, and the endless mountains were roaring. The earth cracked open, and a round of topaz light flew out from it, blazing and dazzling, rushing straight into the sky, trying to survive the golden pill catastrophe. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Mountain Seal. Jade Cave Heaven. The earth cracked, smoke and dust rose, a yellow haze bloomed, and the jade scale beast stepped on the void and rose up, with scales all over its body, exuding a surging demonic aura, like clouds covering the sky. Rumble. The world suddenly became dark, the wind blew, the calamity clouds gathered, and silver white thunders wandered. The thunder sounded, releasing the vast power of heaven. Thunders fell one after another, and the jade scale beast raised its head to the sky, shook its head and tail, and mobilized the power of the entire 4th level spiritual vein to fight against the power of the heavenly calamity. All the Li family members saw the scene here, and they were not surprised at all, and they had already gotten used to it. Almost every once in a while, a big monster condensed a demon pill and brought down a thunder calamity. They could be said to be a little numb. They could only keep reminding themselves that they were worthy of being the ancestor of the nascent soul, and the monsters they raised casually had such strength. The happiest person might be the old patriarch. The strength of the monsters in the family far exceeded that of the human race. This was the foundation of those powerful beast-controlling families. It can be said that the entire Qingyu Li family was supported by Li Quanqing alone, who made up for the gap in the combat power of the golden elixir. 9 thunders fell in succession, lightning flashed, dark clouds rolled and roared, thunder was deafening, and the sky was full of thunder, tearing the sky apart. There was a demon pill on the head of the jade scale beast, shining with radiance, bursting out with khaki light, breaking through the dark clouds, like a sword that opened the sky. Then the vigorous life essence turned into a column of light, turned into a khaki cloud, rushing straight into the sky, swaying the void. The 4 hooves of the jade scale beast stepped on the sky and rushed up. Every step it took made a loud rumbling sound. The momentum was like a sacred mountain and ancient peak, and it smashed the thunder tribulation in the sky. The combat power was as steady as a mountain, and the defense was amazing. Yo. It looked up to the sky and roared with joy. After nearly 100 years of practice, it finally exerted the power of its bloodline to the extreme and had the strength it has today. The voice of the jade scale beast was deep and powerful, and its roar shook the mountains and rivers. It had completely grown from a young beast to a king of monster beasts, with great majesty, shocking the monsters. It really had some of the demeanor of a killer true spirit beast, and was mighty. Between its topaz-like scales, wisps of white mist rose up, turning into a familiar white light ball, suspended on the forehead of the jade scale beast, which was extremely attractive. Harvest a jade scale beast in the early stage of the golden core, and reward a 4th level earth attribute spiritual treasure mountain sealing demon seal. Li Quanqing gently touched it with his spiritual consciousness, and finally, as expected, he opened a Yuanying spiritual treasure as a reward. He raised so many monster beasts, and the most common ones were various magic treasures and spiritual treasures, which were not only precious, but also able to exert extremely powerful power. The 9th golden core great monster. Li Quanqing silently calculated in his heart, and couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. In addition to his favorite Kabeo King, there are also Void Butterfly, Mysterious Ice Phoenix, Dragon Flame Eagle, Wind and Thunder Python King, and Kanghae Whale. As for the 2 weaklings, Bao Guangchen and Tanhuachan, although they were not strong enough in combat and belonged to auxiliary monsters, they were also in the Jinden realm. With so many Jinden monsters, it is quite suitable to set up a powerful portable formation to exert the powerful power of fighting across levels. Li Quanqing thought silently. Unfortunately, the 4th level formation was rare, not to mention the precious and rare portable formation, which was even more rare. Since the ancient times, all kinds of precious resources in the world of immortal cultivation have long been monopolized by the upper sects. Although he broke through the Yuanying realm and made a small profit with the excellent geographical location of Qingchen Xiancheng. However, those precious treasures that really made Yuanying's engine salivate were not in his hands at all and had already been divided up by other major forces. As a latecomer, it was not realistic for the Li family to force their way in and get a share of the pie. If I agree to join the 4C sect and become one of the Grand Elders, I can get a lot of treasures. It's really a good deal. Li Quanqing thought about it in his heart, but he was not in a hurry. With his current strength, he can be said to be at the top of the world of immortal cultivation. Since the divine transformation cultivators have long been extinct, everyone is a Yuanying's engine. It is easy to determine the winner, but it is obviously not easy to determine the real life and death. There is no divine transformation venerable, but there should be a few 5th level Tongshan Ling Bao in the world, especially in the Changsheng Dao. There must be such a powerful existence. Li Quanqing's mind is like a mirror. The Changsheng Dao can unify Zhongzhou, establish an unprecedented powerful immortal dynasty, and explore the heavens with a strong attitude. There must be a 5th level Tongshan Ling Bao as the foundation. Fortunately, I have a good relationship with the Changsheng Dao, and I have stayed in the family for many years, so I have not made any enemies. Moreover, I have comprehended the Zenwu dynamic and static divine light by myself, so at least I can protect myself. Li Quanqing waved his hand. At the same time, the jade scale beast also swallowed up the energy in the sky, consolidated its cultivation, and descended on the clouds. After it condensed the golden elixir, its body suddenly expanded a circle, standing there like a hill, like a unicorn or a dragon, giving birth to a great majesty, and the surface of its scales burned with earthy yellow flames. Li Quanqing was quite emotional, thinking about the young beast that could not stand steadily at the beginning, and it actually grew up to be like this, with a temperament as steady as a rock. Yo-yo. The jade scale beast let out an intimate roar, breaking some of the seriousness, and looked quite naive, with long beard flying, and long tail swinging back and forth. Li Quanqing touched the jade scale beast's head. The 2 yellow horns were crystal clear like jade, but they were actually fleshy. They felt very warm to the touch, and you could even feel the flow of blood. He stretched out his palm, picked up the ball of light, put it into the Kyankan bracelet and crushed it. Light spots flew all over the sky, revealing a mountain and river seal filled with yellow light. Mountain Demon Seal, a 4th level lower grade spiritual treasure. It connects heaven and earth, uses the power of mountain veins, forms its own domain, suppresses big monsters, and seals demons. It is the treasure of the Gengjin lineage. Li Quanqing took out the mountain seal, and his wrist sank suddenly. Even if his own magic power surged, he could not bear this power. Heavy and stable, like a star core. The whole body of the seal is yellow, and each of them is engraved with mountains and rivers, and beasts and unicorns, like a mountain world, lifelike. The interlaced patterns at the bottom outline the 4 big characters Mountain Demon Seal, which are like beasts walking in the mountains, majestic and unrestrained. There are so many spiritual treasures. When the time comes to fight the enemy, I really don't know which one to throw out first. Li Quanqing sighed, holding up the mountain seal with both hands, and began to refine it with his magic power, falling into a kind of happy trouble. Yo-yo. The jade scale beast stood beside him. Seeing this scene, it suddenly glowed all over, and released a yellow cloud, to help its master refine the spirit of the weapon. With the help of the jade scale beast, Li Quanqing was very relaxed this time. He easily controlled the mountain demon seal and once again had an extra life-saving trump card. At this moment, an unexpected guest suddenly came to visit. Chapter 386, Formation Daodan. In a corner of Yulangton, water vapor filled the air and lotus blossomed. A vast fish pond was separated by a dam, and a cave was located on the shore. The water was clear and cool, and countless green jade carp swam leisurely in the water. There were also dragons hiding in the depths of the pond, adding a rare spirituality. Li Quanqing walked towards here, wearing a white dress, with a cool temperament between her eyebrows, like a lotus blooming in a deep valley, with a faint scent of ink, and a faint fragrance filled her sleeves. When she approached her own cave within 100 miles, Li Quanqing naturally felt it, and threw the golden flame tiger out directly, to welcome her into the formation. Ayo how? The golden flame tiger shook its furry tail, and didn't react for a while. It didn't until it was kicked, that it ran out with a wrong cry. Not long after, the big tiger with golden fur twisted its butt and trotted to welcome the guests in, blinking its eyes, as if saying, "Come and praise me." Li Quanqing casually took out a fiery red pill, and threw it into the tiger cub's mouth. The pill pattern was diffused, emitting a spicy and stimulating smell, but it sweetened its taste. This was a 3rd level pill that a giant insect offered to him after he broke through the Gengjin and became the Yuanying ancestor. It was incredibly precious. It was really extravagant to feed a foundation building monster. Sit down and have some tea first. Although Li Quanqing was curious about why she came to find him, he was not in a hurry to ask. The other party must have something. Although he has now broken through the Yuanying, it does not mean that the relationship with these peers has become alienated and indifferent. On the contrary, Li Quanqing attaches great importance to these former friendships. After all, according to his 1000-year lifespan as a Yuanying cultivator, he is likely to witness these former friends and clansmen pass away one by one. By then, the whole world will be silent, and perhaps there will not even be a person to talk to. It is really too cold and lonely to walk alone on the road. Hey, something seems wrong. Li Quanqing thought of his own incense and shrines, and suddenly realized that the death of these guys seemed to be just a new beginning. Maybe even earlier than him, touching the immortal path in the dark. He couldn't help but imagine the scene at that time. Li Kunli, Li Quanfu, Li Quanzu and other guys were full of divine light, and witnessed him surviving the heavenly tribulation, and ascending to immortality with a mysterious smile on their faces. It was too hard to look directly. Li Quanqing shuddered, forcing himself to forget these scenes. He stretched out his hand and pointed, and suddenly boiling water boiled in the air, washing the tea sets one by one. This is the spiritual tea given to me by Taiyuan Gengjin. It is said that it was picked from a 4th level tea tree, and aged for thousands of years. Try it and see how it tastes. Li Quanqing took out a jade jar, which contained green silver needle buds. After being soaked in boiling water, it immediately exuded a timeless tea fragrance. The aroma was not strong, but it was very unique and unforgettable. It was as if one was about to fall into enlightenment, and the soul became more active. The most bizarre thing was that as the tea leaves stretched out, all kinds of colorful rays of light suddenly bloomed, gushing out from the teacups, turning into divine patterns, imprinted in them. Among them was a black and white Teikai diagram, as if 2 dragons were circling and entangled, as if evolving the chaos of yin and yang. There was also a tea leaf, which emerged with extremely bright starlight, as mysterious as the vast ocean and the universe, and the glow fell like stardust. There was also a rich and deep blood light blooming, with a hint of fishy smell, but it could make the blood of living beings boil, and give rise to a desire for strong vitality. Of course, these were just some illusions, not the real rules of the Great Dao, otherwise it would be too amazing. And it would definitely belong to the legendary immortal medicine and immortal root. Li Quanqing looked at these colorful visualizations and was not too surprised, but felt that they were a bit fancy. As expected of the Yuanying Gengjin, he has a long lifespan and has time to enjoy these leisurely and elegant things. She took a sip and the taste was quite good. The sour, sweet, bitter and spicy flavors bloomed in her mouth one after another and finally merged into one in a magical way. In the end, only an indescribable fresh tea fragrance was left on the taste buds on the tip of her tongue, which was endless. Li Quanqing also began to taste the tea. Each sip had a different taste and each had its own characteristics. According to Taiyuan Gengjin, this kind of tea is called Beiwei tea tree, which can be called the 100 flavors of the world, all in a cup of tea. I didn't want to disturb you, but the old clan leader persuaded me to come and ask you for a life-saving item. The warm tea went down her stomach, leaving a lingering fragrance on her lips and teeth. Li Quanqing gradually opened up and stated her purpose. I want to leave my family and travel far away to a certain ancient ruins to seek my own path to forming a golden elixir. Are you also going to form a golden elixir? Li Quanqing looked at the woman's cultivation. She was at the great perfection of foundation building, with a solid foundation. It was obvious that she had been breaking through for some time and could not make any further progress. He was silent for a moment. Why not wait for a while? I want to visit other Yuanying Gengjin and ask for a few 5-element golden elixirs. There is no need to take risks. In fact, knowing that he had successfully formed a Yuanying and had an unclear relationship with the 4C sect, many Yuanying sects in the East China Sea had sent congratulations. The Xiangguifang family, that is, the Yuanying clan, that raised a 4th level longevity turtle, directly sent a gold element golden elixir as a gift. The other party should have done a special investigation and knew that Li Fuqi was facing a natural barrier to forming a golden elixir and that he happened to have a golden spiritual root. Now that he had taken this golden elixir, he fell into a deep retreat. No, I entered the Dao by building a foundation with formations. At this time, to condense a golden elixir, I also need to comprehend the formation. I don't need these external objects much. Li Quanqing shook her head and refused without feeling sorry. Li Quanqing recalled the ancient artifact spirit with a mysterious origin on her body, and it made some sense, so he stopped persuading her. After thinking for a moment, he took out an item that had been covered in dust for a long time. What the old patriarch said should be this item, which can indeed serve as your life-saving foundation. What Li Quanqing took out was the betrayal pearl, which was crystal clear, as if it contained a world of blue sea. Now, Li Quanqing is the only water spiritual root cultivator in the family who practices the Bhao Shengong. As a cultivator who has reached the great perfection of foundation establishment, she can refine this bead and, with the magical power of boundless azure sea, exert a powerful force comparable to that of a giant cultivator. So it is this thing. Li Quanqing frowned and was about to refuse. According to the 1000-year family rules, only the patriarch of the Li family is qualified to inherit this rare treasure, the Bhao pearl. Take it. With my current cultivation and reputation, how can a bead shake me? In the end, Li Quanqing still stuffed the Bhao pearl into her hands and taught her the giant and magical power of boundless azure sea, which can use the power of the sea to fight across levels. I hope she can succeed. Li Quanqing watched Li Quanqing go away, leaving the Qinghai cave heaven and going to inherit the ancient array heritage. What the Li family lacks most now is a giant and cultivator. Otherwise, even if they occupy the boundless sea, they still have no manpower to guard it. In the following days, Li Quanqing thought he could spend a peaceful time comprehending the Xian Sutra and practicing the Zuanwu divine light. Unexpectedly, Brother Zhao Qian of the Changsheng Dao suddenly sent a message, congratulating him on his success in forming a baby and becoming one of the great monks in the world. At the same time, he invited him to travel to Zhongzhou continent to see the local customs, and was willing to share the precious experience of the void beast breaking through the 4th level. His sincere words were really touching. Chapter 387 Heading to Zhongzhou. On the bank of the fish pond, Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the embankment, pondering in his heart, and fell into a period of contemplation. Senior brother Zhao Qian of the Changsheng Dao suddenly sent a message, firstly to congratulate him on his successful breakthrough, breaking the pill, and becoming an infant. The great road is in sight, and he stands at the top of the world. Secondly, he invited him to Zhongzhou to visit the Changsheng Immortal dynasty and discuss how to help the void beast break through the nascent soul tribulation. In his words, he revealed a lot of information about the exploration of the heavens. It seems that he did not give up the intention to invite him to go to other worlds together. Do you want to go? Li Quanqing stroked the mountain and river ceiling demon seal in his hand, turning it into the size of a walnut, with a warm texture and a few edges and corners, which was very comfortable to coil. He had longed for the distant and mysterious Zhongzhou continent for a long time. After all, it was completely different from the scenery of the East China Sea, and the various customs were quite different. What's more, before he crossed over, he also grew up deep in the inland, and he naturally had a good impression of the endless plains and wheat fields. The way of longevity explores the heavens and the worlds, looking for a world rich in resources everywhere, to make up for the broken origin of heaven and earth. The most relied on is the space avenue of the void beast. This kind of monster beast is the mount of the immortals when they descend to the world. It has a strong bloodline in its body, and is a true descendant of the immortal beast. It can travel through the void. Therefore, the way of longevity has a very perfect cultivation of the void beast. How to assist them to break through the nascent soul. There is a complete set of processes and plans. Li Quanqing looked at the Hanhei bowl. The void butterfly was still quietly suspended in the air, emitting silver white rays of light all over its body, like a ribbon entwined and flying. This guy is quite worry-free to practice. He doesn't need to worry too much. He has been practicing silently and very consciously. Now he has reached the realm of great perfection of the golden elixir. He is trapped before the bottleneck of the nascent soul. If he is lucky, he may be able to realize the truth and break through by himself in the next moment. If he is unlucky, he may be stuck at this bottleneck for dozens or hundreds of years, and there is a high probability that he will never break through. The lifespan of the golden elixir monster beast is long, much longer than that of human cultivators of the same level. But at the same time, the speed of the monster's cultivation breakthrough will be much slower, even in units of hundreds of years, limited by the shackles of blood. Li Quanqing thought for a long time, and finally decided to travel to the mainland. Now that he has broken through the nascent soul, and ranked as a true lord, he is at the top of the mortal cultivation world, and can walk sideways in the entire 5 domains. Naturally, he should go out more, to see this vast world, increase his knowledge, and broaden his horizons. What's more, the 5 Thunder Mialuo umbrella is broken. If you want to repair it, you need 5 element of silk. I'm afraid you can only find these things in Zhongzhou continent. Li Quanqing has made a decision, so he will not delay anymore. After preparing for half a month, he got up and set off leisurely. Of course, before leaving, he left the Ice Phoenix puppet to the old patriarch as a trump card of the nascent soul realm, which can protect the family and resist many unexpected and dangerous arrivals. He also contacted the 4C sect through the Jade card to ask about the nascent soul ceremony and how it was prepared. After all, it was the first major event after he had formed his infant, so he naturally had to pay more attention to it. All the Yuanying engines in the entire East China Sea would be invited to come and watch the ceremony, get to know his fellow who had just made a breakthrough. On the other side of the Jade card, Taiyin's engine responded quickly. This rare female cultivator with high cultivation seemed to be specializing in handling the external contacts of the 4C sect. She had been discussing and coordinating with Li Quanqing. According to the current plan of the 4C sect, a total of 2 plans were given, hoping that Li Quanqing could choose one from them. The first plan was to arrange the Yuanying Grand Ceremony at the Qingyu Li clan. This was Li Quanqing's base camp, and it could also be said to be the home of the entire Li family. It was the most suitable and convenient to hold the ceremony without having to travel back and forth. And by the way, it could make the Qingyu Li clan famous in the East China Sea, just like the Fang family, which was officially promoted to a Yuanying clan and announced to the world. The second plan was to place the Yuanying Grand Ceremony in the 4C sect, which was the sea area where the Xi'an ruins were located, and now it had become a branch. Now that the Jiazi Beast Tide is approaching, many Yuanyings have gathered in the outer sea and are heading to the Sihei sect to participate in the Yuanying ceremony, which is very convenient. Moreover, these Yuanying true lords will definitely not come alone to participate in the ceremony, but will bring their families with them, and each of them has many Chindans under their command. With so many powerful cultivators gathered together, only the strong strength of the Sihei sect can calm the situation and avoid any accidents or even a war between Yuanying true lords. In order to win over Li Quanqing, Taiyuan true lord deliberately exaggerated the statement, saying that many Yuanying ceremonies in history have had big troubles. Therefore, he particularly advocated the second option and wanted to select the location of the ceremony inside the Sihei sect. In this way, he announced to the entire East China Sea's Yuxin world that a brand new Yuanying great cultivator had joined the Sihei sect and strengthened the glory of the Xi'an Dao. Li Quanqing naturally knew what she was thinking, and after making a choice, he agreed to the second plan. Taking advantage of this Jiazi Beast Tide and the outbreak of monsters, he went to the Sihei sect to hold the Yuanying ceremony. At that time, all the great monks of the East China Sea will gather in the outer sea, stirring up the situation. Maybe they will directly kill 2 4th level monsters to help cheer them up. As for why the venue is not placed in the Qingyu Sea, it's because the Li family's foundation is still too weak. The entire 4th level spiritual vein has just been built and can't withstand the tossing. At that time, if a group of Yuanying Zenjin enter the Qingyu cave heaven, if there is a conflict and a war breaks out, I'm afraid it will directly cause damage to the entire Li family, and the gain will not outweigh the loss. It's still too weak. Li Quanqing ended the communication with Taiyuan Zenjin. There are still 2 or 3 years before the Jiazi Beast Tide breaks out, which is enough time. After making all the preparations, Li Quanqing did not alarm too many people, quietly left the Qingyu cave heaven, and headed towards the mainland. The East China Sea is vast and boundless. The territory occupied by the human race is only half of the territory, and the rest is ruled by the monster race. Although the Li family's territory is located in the inland sea, it is still quite far away from the Zhongshan mainland, millions of miles away. Even for nascent soul cultivators, it is still a long distance, and it takes several months to reach the mainland. Some of the sea areas are ancient battlefields left behind after the ancient battles of the divine transformation cultivators. Even for the nascent soul true lord, it is still very dangerous. It's a pity that the teleportation array technology in the East China Sea has long been lost and buried in the years, otherwise it would be extremely convenient. I heard that the current Changsheng Dao has mastered this technology and applied it to the Immortal dynasty, but it's a pity that it can't be passed on to others. Li Quanqing looked at the boundless East China Sea and decided to go to the Xingqian sect first to find a detailed map of this millions of miles of sea area. Chapter 388 Return to the Stars. Moo, a melodious dragon roar suddenly came from the blue sea, echoing between the clouds, shaking the fields. With great majesty, a green dragon shuttled through the clouds. Its body was slender, its scales were as green as jade, and it exuded a touch of brilliant moonlight, appearing more and more warm and peaceful. It was the great golden elixir monster, the blue moon dragon Aoking, who was used as a mount at this time, and was also enjoying it. Although Aoking was a natural king of scrolls, and practiced hard day and night, since he had a firm heart to transform into a dragon, he naturally yearned for unfettered soaring. The dragon's body was huge, and its 4 claws cruised in the clouds, surrounded by clouds and mist. Only such a vast East China Sea could breed such a powerful creature. It's true that shallow water can't breed a real dragon. Only the sea and the abyss are the places where dragons lie dormant, waiting for the opportunity to soar into the sky. Li Quanqing touched Aoking's dragon horn and felt that it was in high spirits, quite happy. The demonic energy in his body became active, drilling out from between the scales and armor, turning into a thick demonic cloud, becoming more and more bright and boiling. Li Quanqing rode the dragon, shuttling between heaven and earth, looking at the endless rolling of the sea, the surging waves, the endless sound of the waves, and the sound of the crashing sound drilled into his ears. They have crossed many seas, nearly hundreds of thousands of miles, and are about to arrive at the Gengjin sect, ready to meet the two friends of the true Lord. Well, the old man Gengjin true Lord should also be considered my good friend. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the head of the dragon, thinking back to the old man, who once had bad intentions towards him. Of course, with his current breakthrough of the pill, and becoming an infant, his strength has greatly increased, and he has also got the relationship with the 4C sect. The situation has been determined. The other party had no choice but to greet him with a smile and personally invite him to visit the Gengjin sect to discuss the Dao. Bus! Exclamation mark. The starlight was diffused and sprinkled out in front of his eyes. The stars were brilliant, and they still appeared even in the daytime, like a gorgeous galaxy covering the sky, turning into a rich star essence, surging vigorously. Li Quanqing looked at the sea in front of him. The cold sea water was surging, and the wreckage of stars was hidden in it. Large pieces of seawater crashed on it, and broke into endless waves and white foam. It can be called a graveyard of stars. These stars fell into the sea, one after another, like mountains undulating and winding, and had long been integrated into the seabed veins, releasing a rich and vigorous aura all over the sky for the cultivation of immortals. On the surface of these stars, there are many buildings and cities, which are the real places where immortals live. The spiritual light of magic tools blooms, which seems quite lively and prosperous. Some of the star debris, due to the long time, have even begun to turn into jade under the nourishment of the seabed spiritual veins, and are changing towards the material of spiritual stones, which are very beautiful. In comparison, the many islands located in the sea are scattered all over the place, but they are not so shocking, and can only be reduced to the residence of mortals and casual cultivators. Moo. Ao King's body twisted and drilled into this sea area, opened his mouth and swallowed, and suddenly a large amount of star essence was refined by it, turning into pure demonic energy, and spreading throughout the body, nourishing the flesh, blood, and bones. That feeling is really comfortable, and I feel that my blood is boiling. King Gaiu Qiu is close to the power of Taiyin, and it is also a kind of star essence. Taiyin can even be said to be the king of stars. For many monsters, this powerful and unpredictable star essence is the most desired thing. It can polish the body, eliminate impurities in the blood, and achieve a deeper level of evolution. Ao King waved his claws, and continued to fly towards the depths of the star sea, riding the gusts of wind, and making rumbling thunderous sounds. The further he went, the bigger the stars in the sea became, and the more jade-like star remains appeared, which were taller than the sacred mountain. Above, there were clouds and mists, and the spirit rushed to the sky. A series of large formations blocked the four directions, and the breath faintly emanating from them was even more powerful and unpredictable. This is the true heritage of the Yuanying sect. A holy place for cultivating immortals has attracted countless cultivators to pursue it, and it can burst out with amazing and powerful power. Li Quanqing was full of emotion. He had also arrived at the star sect before, and came here to refine the sky boat, but he did not watch it carefully. Moreover, his cultivation at that time was not high, and he had just broken through the Gengjin realm, so he could not see too many deeper things. Now with the vision of a Yuanying cultivator, he can easily see through everything. Among these stars, there are cultivators practicing in seclusion in each one, which is equivalent to an alternative cave house rented to these powerful Gengjin cultivators. The Gengjin sect did not reject these casual cultivators. On the contrary, they welcomed them, and were even willing to teach them some not so profound chapters of the Gengjin scriptures. The power of the stars was pure and powerful. Suppressing evil spirits was a very common inheritance in the world of immortal cultivation. Therefore, there were many cultivators who set foot on the Gengjin Avenue, which was a force that could not be ignored. The Gengjin sect spent a long time intercepting stars and creating such a holy place. At that time, it would naturally be able to call for 100 responses and enhance the strength of the sect. King Yukio crossed 100,000 miles of sea and finally saw the location of the Gengjin sect. A vast and unpredictable mountain range rose from the ground and went straight into the sky, towering like a pillar of heaven. Ancient stars were rotating around the mountain, emitting a soft glow, as if the sky was full of stars, and could be picked up at hand. Those amazing mists of immortal air rose into the air from all over the mountain range, mixed with the dazzling light of the stars, showing the mysterious vastness. The mountain gate was majestic and ancient, as if it had been handed down from ancient times to the present day. The stars were falling, and palaces were rising and falling, suspended between the nebulae, with dazzling brilliance flowing from time to time, powerful and unpredictable. This was not something that a few Yuanying Zenjin could do. It was completely a legacy passed down from generation to generation, and even contained the handwriting of the Huishan Venerable, representing the glory of an ancient sect. Li Quanqing was dazzled by what he saw, and he didn't know how many years of development it would take for the Li family to achieve such an amazing scene. Greetings to Ancestor Quanqing. Congratulations to the great Sea Zenjin on his great achievement of his magical power, and 1,000 years of spring and autumn, and from now on, he will live forever. A group of Gengjin monks emerged from everywhere, and there were countless disciples of the Xingqian sect, like starlight turning into clouds covering the sky, with a mighty momentum and rumbling. They spoke in unison, their voices shaking the heavens and the earth, and echoing in this ancient sect. This was obviously the highest reception etiquette. Dao Li, how are you? Along with a loud laugh, the figure of Zenmo Zenjin emerged. He was tall and strong, with a cheerful personality, and looked like a leader of righteous cultivators. Dao, this is really grand. It's really frightening. I'm a little uncomfortable. Li Quanqing said with a bit of self-mockery. He just notified the other party before coming, but he didn't expect such a big welcome ceremony. Chapter 389 Chaos Stars. Li Quanqing waved his sleeves and collected Aoking, turning him into a small dragon like a green python, entwining his body, full of spirituality. Dao Li, please follow me into the sect. Zenmo Zenjin smiled and stretched out his hand, inviting him to visit the Xingqian sect and visit this ancient sect. The two Yuanying Zenjins walked in the air, without too much mana fluctuations, but their aura was completely different, with a kind of spirit that controlled everything. Below, all the disciples and elders of the Xingqian sect bowed their heads and saluted respectfully, not daring to be disrespectful. Among the Gengjin elders, there were still a few who had a good relationship with King Gaoli. At this time, they looked at the brilliant Hanhei Zenjin in front of them, and their emotions were naturally complicated and envious, looking forward to one day being able to glimpse such a Yuanying avenue. Li Quanqing was talking and laughing. Following the demon-suppressing master into the mountain gate of the Xingqian sect, they came to the majestic sacred mountain in the center, towering into the clouds, supporting the 4 seas and 8 wildernesses like a pillar of heaven. At the top of this sacred mountain, an ancient star was suspended. It was not very large, but it actually flowed with wisps of chaotic aura. On the surface of this chaotic star, mountains rose and fell, like the dragon veins of the earth converging, and there was even more white fairy air rushing into the sky, thick and amazing, evolving into various mythological scenes. Is this the first batch of innate stars bred after the creation of the world? Li Quanqing was shocked, watching the wisps of chaotic air surging, as if to recreate the world, and reopen the world. The outer space is ancient and boundless, and it is unknown how many long years it has existed. The oldest star among them is the same as the 2 big stars of the 5 domains continent, the Taiyin and the Sun, and they were all the first to be bred when the world was first created. This kind of star contains some creation of the world, flowing with the power of chaos, and possesses incredible power, which is definitely not weaker than a 5th level spiritual vein. As for the planets and brilliant stars in the sky, they are just the gathering of stardust, and have not received the blessing of the creation of the world. Dao have good eyesight. This is the oldest chaotic star in the world. It was captured by the ancient predecessors of my Xingqian sect, and has been refined for millions of years. Zenmo Zenjin smiled, and spoke with a hint of pride, inviting him to go to this chaotic star to find out. The size of this star is not particularly large, but when you stand in front of it, you can't help but feel a sense of insignificance in your heart. Even though Li Quanqing has now formed an ascent soul, he still feels the same. He feels the gap, and is still frightened. The grey chaotic airflow surges like waves, heavy and heavy. Every strand is enough to collapse the mountains, showing all kinds of incredible scenes. After all these years, the chaotic essence contained in this star has been refined a lot and turned into the purest spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Even so, the foundation of the star sect can still be seen. In the ancient times, there were more than one divine transformation masters. It is far superior to the 5 elements sect. It has been passed down from the ancient times to the present and has not declined over the years or disappeared in the invasion of the demons. Li Quanqing followed the demon suppression master and flew forward. The formation patterns under his feet intertwined, the rays of light bloomed, and the starlight gathered, opening up a road to the sky from the chaotic airflow. He glanced around from time to time, and from these surging grey airflows, he occasionally glimpsed a corner of the remnant formation that was revealed. It was definitely unexpectedly powerful and terrifying. Needless to say, this chaotic star is the true foundation of the star sect. It is engraved with a powerful 5th level formation, which is enough to resist the powerful force of the divine transformation master. At the end of the avenue, the chaos surged, revealing a grey stone palace, which was built in a very ancient and majestic manner, with a knife and an axe. It seemed as if someone had forcibly opened up such an ancient stone palace from the chaos. There were not many decorations, but there was an amazing avenue implication flowing in it. This palace is called the Ancient Star-Picking Palace. It is a powerful treasure passed down by the 2nd generation of our sect's ancestors. It is made of hard material, and is also a divine object from before the creation of the world. It is enough to withstand the impact of the chaotic energy. All the disciples of the Gengjin sect in the past generations, who want to break the pill and become infants, need to pass the tribulation in this stone palace, forge with the help of the thunder tribulation and the power of heaven, and engrave their own Yuanying avenue. Zenmo Zenjin introduced it, but only gave a general idea, and many things were not detailed. This is a very normal thing. After all, it is a trump card of the Gengjin sect, and it must contain many secrets. It is taken out to entertain guests at this time, which shows a grand scale and deep sincerity. Li Quanqing looked at the Gengjin palace. Needless to say, this is definitely a 5th level Tongshan Lingbao that can only be forged by the god transformation venerable. If you want to set foot in it, you definitely need some confidence, for fear that the Gengjin sect has bad intentions and wants to catch the turtle in the jar. However, Li Quanqing believes that Zenmo is a man with a cheerful and upright personality, and is a true master of the righteous way. He took a step, stepped over the layers of stone steps, and stepped into this grey hall. Suddenly, the rich starlight bloomed in front of his eyes, and he entered another small world. In the depths of the stone hall, there was a vast and unpredictable expanse of nebulae, as if he had come to the depths of the boundless starry sky, with chaotic air currents surging, and the stars shining above his head. The gorgeous stars were suspended above, reflecting the star map, as if they were within reach, standing in the vast universe. The ancient star-picking hall is well deserved of its reputation. Zenmo Zenjin took out 2 mats made of branches, and said with a little apology, "Brother Xingqian is about to die. He has made some achievements, and is practicing in seclusion. I'm very sorry that it is inconvenient for him to entertain guests. After all, he is an old senior who has lived for 1,000 years. I understand that you should take care of your health." Li Quanqing was relieved when he heard this. Xingqian Zenjin is a real 1,000-year-old monster. He is really a little scared of him. He sat cross-legged on the mat and was shocked again. He felt that the extremely rich life essence rushed into his flesh and blood, washed his body, and greatly increased his vitality. Even the Kingai Qiu wrapped around him also benefited a lot. The scales all over his body were glowing, and the moonlight was diffused, shining like jade. This is a cushion woven from branches of the towering Jianmu tree in ancient times. Several of them have been handed down in my sect, and have been used until now. They are still pleasing to the eye. Zenmo Zenjin smiled lightly. As expected of a Yuanying Zenjin, he inadvertently revealed a kind of demeanor and spirit that is unrivaled in the world. Li Quanqing cursed him secretly, feeling a little sour in his heart. These ancient divine objects have now experienced the destruction of heaven and earth, and can be said to have long been extinct. Only these ancient sects have treasured them. Sure enough, the earlier you reincarnate, the more benefits you will get. For someone like him who reincarnates late, let alone eating meat, he can't even drink a mouthful of soup. After showing off secretly, Zenmo Zenjin said nothing more. He pointed his finger, and suddenly the sky was full of stars. Chapter 390 Dinghe Plate. The ancient star-picking temple. Strands of chaotic air currents surged, and thousands of stars rose and fell, within easy reach, turning into a brilliant nebula blooming, with dazzling starlight gathering in the sky. As Zenmo Zenjin pointed his finger, he suddenly saw that in these rich starlights, some mysterious elves woke up from their slumber. They were thumb-sized star spirits, exquisite and cute, wearing long skirts woven from starlight, dancing like a group of butterflies, making crisp and pleasant songs, similar to the ringing of bells. It was the first time that Li Quanqing saw such a magical creature. Just like the previous Leiling, which was bred from thunder and lightning, these star spirits were also the same, turning from the starlight into entities, and having their own lives. Although their combat effectiveness is not strong, they can assist monks in comprehending the great way of stars, and can even gather starlight into the body to increase the probability of breaking through bottlenecks. Thousands of star spirits danced, like the gauze mist gathered by starlight, shining brightly, dancing there and blooming in the starry universe. You are so lucky to see this dance of stars. Zenmo Zenjin laughed. Xingqian sect is mostly composed of male cultivators who practice hard to suppress demons and eliminate monsters. They are not popular with fairy dancers who are not interested in worldly things. In fact, many righteous cultivators are pure-hearted and do not like these things. They rely on mountains and rivers and aim for the great way. On the contrary, those demon sects liberate their natural desires and act recklessly. They are more proficient in the dance of the 6 desires of the demon princesses. TikTok! Exclamation mark. Several star spirits flew in the air and brought 2 bronze goblets. A line of water fell from the wine jar and filled the cups, as if turning the starry sky into a cup of nectar. Before drinking, you can smell a wine aroma that penetrates your heart. The aroma is mellow and intoxicating, as if it is enough to forget all the worries in the world. Li Quanqing has practiced for more than 100 years and rarely drinks, but when he saw such nectar at this time, he was very happy to taste it. He picked up the wine glass and took a sip. He felt an endless taste bursting on his tongue, as if he saw the world opening up, chaos overflowing, and evolving into a spectacular scene of a starry sky. After a cup of wine, endless starlight bloomed, and it turned into a star map in the Danshan, which appeared above the body of the Yuanying, evolving into a gorgeous starry sky. The starlight shone, and the true spirit hidden in the depths of the Yuanying was nourished, and began to grow slowly. Li Quanqing savored the last lingering rhyme, and felt that it was endless. The whole person seemed to have experienced a baptism, and his understanding had increased a little. Drink slowly and taste carefully. It took 100 years to brew this pot of starry sky juice. If my senior brother knew, he would definitely scold me for being a spendthrift again. Zenmo Zenjin shook the bronze wine glass, which was very viscous. As he swung it, strands of starlight fell, and the waves were shimmering, which was very beautiful. He also took out many thousand-year-old spiritual fruits, which were extremely rare in the outside world, and some were enough to refine 3rd-level pills. But at this time, it was just some sour and sweet fruits with endless flavor, crystal clear and mouth-watering. The 2 Yuanyings engines sat and drank, talking about the Tao, telling each other about their own cultivation experience, confirming what they learned, and the sound of the Tao echoed in this stone hall, causing the chaotic energy to surge endlessly. When they preached, all the star spirits quieted down and listened quietly, and the starlight flickered and extinguished like fireflies. Li Quanqing had not mentioned before that he was going to Zhongshan continent to obtain a map of millions of miles of sea. Zenmo Zenjin thought that he was traveling around the world after his cultivation was stable, looking for Tao and visiting friends, so he was very interested and specially arranged such a grand ceremony. It was hard to refuse such a kind invitation, so Li Quanqing naturally didn't know how to speak and interrupt the interest of this good friend. The 2 of them talked about Tao for a month before slowly ending, and each of them was a little reluctant and had endless aftertastes. Before, the 4C sect said that you are also the orthodox of Cheyenne. I was a little skeptical, but now I have no doubts. In terms of the understanding of the great way of water, what you have seen and known is probably not inferior to the famous Cheyenneese engine of the 4C sect. Zenmo Zenjin was quite emotional, thinking that the 4C sect was really lucky to pick up a Yuanying great cultivator with the appearance of a god. Daoai was really flattering. After all, the 4C sect is the orthodox of Cheyenne. Compared with them, I'm still a little inferior, Li Quanqing said modestly. He had also seen Cheyenne Zenjin of the 4C sect in the Cheyenne ruins. He was a true heavenly spirit root and was in charge of the fragments of the immortal tripod. He was the designated successor to the next sect master. Seeing that the other party was no longer interested, Li Quanqing said goodbye and asked for a map of the East China Sea territory, wanting to travel to the mainland. Although the East China Sea is boundless, it has declined after all. Now the real peak of the immortal cultivation world is only the Changsheng Immortal dynasty. It would be great to go and see it. Zenmo Zenjin also highly praised the mysterious Zhangzhou continent. He was 100 or 200 years older than Li Quanqing. Looking at this energetic young Taoist friend in front of him, he treated him like his own brother and had a good impression of him. This is the magic weapon Dinghe plate, which records the territory of the East China Sea of nearly 10 million miles, spanning the sea and land, and can anchor the detailed sea area, where it is at any time. There are many dangers in the millions of miles to Zhangzhou, including the means to resist the invasion of the demon tribe on the coast of the East China Sea. Be careful when approaching the mainland. Zenmo Zenjin took out a blue jade plate engraved with the waves of the sea, and continued, before, you mentioned the 5 element of spiritual silk, and wanted to repair a spiritual treasure for overcoming the tribulation. I also have one here, which is the silk thread spit out by the 9-leaf sky spider parasitic on Jianmu. He reached out to pick it up, and suddenly a starlight bloomed above his head, slowly shrank, and finally turned into a ball of dark green spider silk, the color of pale leaves, the shape of ancient wood rings, and entangled into more than 100 circles. This is too precious. Li Quanqing was extremely surprised. The Dinghe plate was fine. It was just a golden elixir magic weapon, and Chengqing took it. This ball of spider silk was really unimaginable. Jianmu Tangshan was originally a divine object of heaven and earth in the ancient times, equivalent to the existence of the world tree. Now, as the heaven and earth are broken, it has also fallen. The monster that can parasitize on the body of this Jianmu sacred tree can be imagined to be powerful and mysterious. It is called the 9-leaf sky spider. Li Quanqing has never even heard of it. It must have disappeared in the years and its bloodline has been cut off. Take it. This ball of spider silk was obtained together with these Jianmu cushions. No one has used it for hundreds of thousands of years. I give it to you. Zenmo Zenjin's attitude was very tough. He stuffed the spider silk into his arms without saying anything. The star avenue is biased towards the earth element, and it is naturally restrained by the wood element, and the skills are not compatible. The Yuanying great monk who has never been born with a wood spirit root, so the 9-leaf sky spider spirit silk has been preserved for such a long time. In the end, Li Quanqing couldn't refuse the kindness, so he had to collect both treasures, and left with a full harvest. Chapter 391 Zhangzhou Continent. The coast of the East China Sea. The waves hit the dense reefs, breaking into handfuls of white waves. The tides rise and fall, and the tides keep surging. On this day, a man in a green Taoist robe came riding a dragon, driving the clouds, his sleeves fluttering in the wind, and embroidered with lifelike fish and dragon patterns with gold thread. It was Li Quanqing who came from the depths of the East China Sea. He spent 3 months crossing millions of miles of sea, exhausted. He looked at the Zhangzhou continent at the end of the sky. The land turned into black lines, vast and boundless. Finally arrived. Li Quanqing exhaled a breath of turbid air, holding a blue Dinghe plate in his palm. In the jade plate, the light appeared, interweaving into a sesame-sized red star, representing his own position, shuttling through the vast sea. According to the sea map, he has crossed millions of miles of sea and successfully arrived on the mainland, and is about to reach the ruling area of the Changsheng Immortal dynasty. Recalling this encounter, a few months of short time, Li Quanqing found it quite interesting. He saw many customs and natural scenery that he had never heard of. The most dangerous one was 300,000 miles away from the coast of the East China Sea. There is a line of defense to suppress monsters, located in the sea, surrounding the entire continent. It is specially used to isolate the monsters of the East China Sea to prevent monsters from sneaking in and invading the fertile land of Zhongzhou. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, monsters from outside the domain descended to the East China Sea and started a terrifying beast tide that swept the entire cultivation world and destroyed many ancient sects. At that time, led by Shi and Dao, the 5 domains of the cultivation world united as one and finally expelled the monsters and sealed them in the deepest part of the East China Sea. It was in this battle that the Blue Sea God emerged, and finally, in the great changes of heaven and earth, he passed the catastrophe and ascended. 50,000 years ago, the monsters rose again, and a great monster in the realm of transformation was born, named Immortal Monster Lord. The power of this demon lord is unimaginable. He actually led the demon race to destroy the Shi and Dao and killed the last divine cultivator of the Shi and Dao. He even expelled all the human cultivators and completely occupied the entire East China Sea, causing trouble and making the demon race flourish. The demon race has a long lifespan, and this immortal demon lord is even more so. His lifespan is much longer than that of the divine cultivators of the human race. The rule of the immortal demon lord lasted for 10,000 years. The strength of the entire demon race reached an unprecedented peak, occupying 1/3 of the territory of this world. Until later, the human race gathered their strength and quietly accumulated strength. In the same era, 4 great divine cultivators came out one after another, and then they fought back. The 4 divine cultivators joined forces to suppress the demons, and with the help of the powerful means left by the predecessors of the immortal world, they forcibly opened the ascension channel and completely disappeared with the immortal demon lord. It was also after this battle that the originally fragile world was completely shattered, the spiritual energy was exhausted, the laws were incomplete, and it was difficult for the world to breed a divine lord. Chang Shengdao rose up with the trend and attracted a group of Yuanying Zhenjin who were about to die, opened up the journey of the heavens, and even unified Zhongzhou and established the supreme immortal dynasty. Those Yuanying sects who fled from the East China Sea in those days were unwilling to be inferior to others and fight for the immortal dynasty. After much deliberation, they could only retake the East China Sea. This is why there have been several major land reclamation in the past 10,000 years. Now they have successfully recaptured most of the East China Sea territory and forced the monsters to retreat to the deep sea. What Li Quanqing encountered before was the line of defense against monsters laid by all the gods of transformation that year, which formed a circle around the entire continent. As long as they perceive the arrival of the demonic energy, they will automatically revive and start suppress the monsters and beasts and protect the territory of the human race. Because he didn't know much before, he rode Dao King and swaggered through that sea area. In the end, because of the demonic energy emitted by King Gaiu Qianglong, this line of defense was activated. The sea water boiled and split on both sides, and a battle puppet of the Yuanying realm emerged from the seabed. Li Quanqing was completely stunned at the time. He was flying well when suddenly a fierce war puppet emerged. It was as big as a mountain, shrouded in shadow, and the axe in its hand was even bigger than the palace. Fortunately, this giant puppet was not rigid, but had a simple mind and could communicate with people. After it warned, it fell into the seabed again and fell asleep, guarding the territory of the human race until the monster race was completely destroyed. Li Quanqing was shocked. Even though the world is broken now, it is difficult for Yuanying cultivators to break through, and it seems that all major sects are heading towards decline. But the heritage left over from the ancient times and the ancient times is still enough for future generations to squander. For example, there are as many as 100 giant war puppets used to suppress monsters, surrounding the entire continent and sleeping deep in the sea. It is equivalent to the heritage of more than 100 Yuanying. There are also the chaotic stars in the depths of the Xingqian sect, the spirit of the immortal weapon in the Xi'an ruins, and even the fragments of the ancient Longman treasured by the beast taming sect. They are all incredible existences. If there is a cultivator or a force that can turn all these Yuanying sects into a powerful force and gather all the gods in the world, it may be enough to restore some of the glory of the ancient times. Li Quanqing crossed the last thousands of miles of sea with some imagination and successfully arrived at the distant Zhongzhou continent. He looked at the heavy earth under his feet. Now that he thought about it, the possibility of the longevity path was undoubtedly the greatest. They explored the heavens and the worlds, plundered the origin, and repaired the world. Naturally, they would be blessed by the heavenly way in the dark and go smoothly. Perhaps, this is a choice of the world's will, to carry out the final self-rescue, and not want to be broken and destroyed. Li Quanqing put Aoking into the bowl, and landed on this land in person. He hadn't seen land for a long time, and he really missed it. The moment his feet landed on the ground, he clearly felt its heaviness, as solid as a rock and as majestic as a mountain. It was a kind of steadiness that went deep into the bone marrow, like a mother's warm and solid embrace, giving life endless nourishment and support, carrying all things, and silently guarding everything in the world. Li Quanqing comprehended it carefully. With his higher level of cultivation, he had begun to touch the rules of the universe. The body of the nascent soul was born with a natural shortcut. The more ordinary the place was, the more he could comprehend many things. Unfortunately, I'm not a cultivator with earth spirit roots. The vast and magnificent sea is more suitable for me. Li Quanqing sighed, and took out the jade scale beast as a mount. This guy is undoubtedly more suitable for such an environment. He shook his head and excitedly jumped up with his 4 hooves, running wildly on the land. Not long after, they saw many mortal villages, which were located in an orderly manner, and distributed on this east coast, making a living by the sea. These mortals were not surprised to see the immortals and beasts. They seemed to be used to it. After paying respect, they went to do their own things. Yes, we live with dignity, unlike the mortal kingdoms in the East China Sea, which have completely become vassals of the immortal cultivators, and those mortal warriors have to compete to be slaves. Li Quanqing rode the jade scale beast, and walked into a village, looking around with a little curiosity. If it were an island in the East China Sea, the mortals in the entire village would kneel on the ground at this time, led by the village chief to pay homage to the immortals, and wait for their orders. Not only that, the material conditions of this village, that can be seen everywhere, are much better. Most of them are tile bricks and earth walls, and there are 2 cross-shaped bluestone slabs. At least it won't be muddy on rainy days, so these mortals can live a more relaxed and decent life. Finally, Li Quanqing stopped outside a brick-walled courtyard, and heard the sound of reading aloud across the snow-white courtyard wall. This village is not big, but there is a private school, to teach and educate people. It seems that the Changsheng Immortal dynasty has indeed launched compulsory education. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Master. Li Quanqing looked at the high wild courtyard, and the sound of reading came out from it, which was enough to hear the innocence of the children. He stood for a long time and listened carefully. The courses taught were many and varied, not only reading and literacy, but also history and geography, some common sense of the world of immortal cultivation, etc. Until a chime sounded, the sun was setting, and accompanied by the children's cheerful shouts, today's private school finally ended. Wow, dog, look, a big deer like topaz, so big. What deer? You have no idea, this is a killing beast, the mount of the immortal. A group of half-grown children ran out of the yard in a large number. There were not a few of them, and they were all chattering and jumping around. They circled the Yulin beast, watching from a distance, and did not dare to get close, fearing the pressure of the demonic aura. The younger ones were more innocent, whispering to each other, looking around here, their eyes were shining. The older ones, who were sensible, and had a sense of respect and inferiority, saluted in a crooked manner, while secretly looking at Li Quanqing. Perhaps they were still fantasizing about whether they could be favored by the young immortal master in front of them, and accepted as his disciples, so that they could rise to prominence, eat meat and drink wine, and practice immortality. Don't be rude in front of the immortal. Everyone, disperse, disperse. Be careful, or I will tell your parents, and beat them so hard that they will be unable to get out of bed for 3 days. Such a big commotion naturally attracted the attention of several teachers in the private school. The oldest teacher walked out, about 40 years old, with an ancient jade belt on his waist and a slightly worn robe, but it was washed very clean. He had a square face, wise eyes, a long beard, slightly grey hair, and a scholarly air. He bowed and saluted without being humble or arrogant. Of course, if we talk about age, Li Quanqing is more than enough to be his grandfather's grandfather. Master, you must be tired, after coming from afar. Why don't we serve you a cup of fragrant tea to relieve your tiredness? This middle-aged master had obviously come into close contact with immortal cultivators. He was well informed, and was not afraid of the demon's might. He stepped forward and bowed. He saw that the jade scale beast was mighty and powerful, and the Taoist in front of him was even more ethereal. Obviously, he was not an ordinary key refining immortal master. He should be a person at the level of foundation building, and his attitude became more respectful. All the mortals I have seen along the way were fearless. Aren't you afraid that I'm a demon cultivator and will take your flesh and blood to refine magic weapons? Li Quanqing fell from the jade scale beast, and he was really curious. These mortals under the rule of the Changsheng immortal dynasty were well fed, well clothed, and full of blood and energy. They were definitely the most beloved human treasures of key refining demon cultivators. Time and fate. Everything has a destiny. If we really encounter a demon cultivator who slaughters all living beings and leaves no body, it can only be regarded as the bad luck of Ardakwa village, the dark clouds covering the sky, and the end of fate. Unexpectedly, a teacher in Immortal village can actually have such insight and know the fate. Of course, all things have the will to survive. Although we are as small as mustard seeds, we will not be slaughtered. We should work together and at least fight for the last ray of life for the children. The teacher shook the jade pendant on his waist, and the spiritual light burst out in an instant, and the array patterns intertwined, turning into an ancient array, covering the entire private school and protecting it. Although the coverage area is very small, it is also a first level superior magic array, enough to resist the demon cultivators in the late stage of key refining, and hold on until the immortal cultivators come to support. Li Quanqing saw through the truth at a glance. The immortal dynasty was really generous, and considered all aspects for these mortals. The master hid the magic circle, and saw the origin of the Taoist in front of him. Master, you must not be from Zhangzhou. This place is near the sea. Could you be from the East China Sea? It must be said that compulsory education is really effective. Even mortals from the Qingyu Li family may not know the division of the 5 domains of the world of immortal cultivation. Li Quanqing did not deny it, but just said, "Follow me around. I'm new here and want to know more about this central Shenzhou. A gentleman has an order, and I dare not disobey. Although I have no spiritual roots and cannot cultivate immortals, I have also lived in Qingshu County, 500 miles away, for more than 10 years. I will not disappoint, master." The man smiled slightly, and there was a hint of pride in his words. The county system is similar to the mortal island countries in the East China Sea. Li Quanqing caught a hint of the key point. The difference is that the officials and rulers of these county towns are all served by immortal cultivators, who go in and out of the mortal world and serve the entire immortal city. The two walked in the village, asking and answering each other, and they got along quite well. I see these children. They come from different backgrounds. Some are poor, some are from gentry families. Can all of them go to private schools to study? The smoke from cooking rises from every household, blending into the sunset. As the sun sets, the warm aroma of rice begins to permeate the village. We, the teachers, are all paid by the immortal dynasty, and there is no need to collect extra tuition. Villagers can send their children to study. Li Quanqing nodded gently, and then asked, how do mortals measure their spiritual roots, and how do they embark on the path of cultivating immortals? Every 3 years, on the second day of the second month, the envoys of the immortal dynasty will come to measure their spiritual roots, and those who pass the test will be taken to the academy in Qingshu County to chant scriptures and meditate to practice. Li Quanqing looked at every household in the village. There were at least 3 or 4 children, all of whom were born one after another, hoping to produce an immortal cultivator. Needless to say, the midwives in the village also have a high status and are as famous as these private school teachers. They walked and stopped and arrived at the field ridge at the end of the village. The sky was completely dark, dotted with stars, and a silver moon was like a disk hanging in the sky. The evening breeze blew through the wheat seedlings in the field, and the green leaves swayed. In the deep night, there were the sounds of insects one after another, occasionally accompanied by the croaking of frogs, full of vitality. Li Quanqing sniffed the earthy smell in his nose. He hadn't done this for a long time. Walking in the wheat field, the moonlight illuminated the dirt road under his feet, and he was a little absent-minded for a while. The last question, where is Qingshu County? I want to meet a real immortal monk. Li Quanqing came back to his senses, and raised his last question. He crossed the entire East China Sea, and arrived at the Zhangzhou continent. As expected, he was a little lost after landing. But as long as he saw the immortal monk, he could contact Zhao Qian, and notify him to pick him up. The master was a little hesitant when he heard this. I dare not hide it from you, immortal master. If you want to trade by land and sea, and obtain spiritual stones, the Qingshu County government is not the best choice. Those nearby immortal cultivation families have more experience. For example, the King Liumo family, 200 miles southwest, and the Xiananchu family, 360 miles southeast, are all well-known foundation building families. They have their own strengths, and may be able to meet your requirements. Li Quanqing laughed when he heard this, knowing that the other party had misunderstood his meaning. I'm confident, no need to say more, just point out the direction. The master heard this, and no longer insisted. He pointed out the direction of Qingshu County, which was 500 miles away from here, and many mortals would find it difficult to go there once in their lifetime. Chapter 393 Qingshuxan Yamen. I'm leaving now. I only hope that the immortal master's path will be evergreen, and that immortality is in sight. On the road of cultivation, I can have 3 or 2 close friends to accompany me. Li Quanqing looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. He seemed to be generous and polite, but between his eyebrows and eyes, there was a trace of deep loneliness. It should be known that the young man had lofty ambitions and promised to be the best in the world. Unfortunately, the difference between immortals and mortals is as difficult as ascending to heaven. The next time he passes by this place, Li Quanqing will probably find nothing more than a pile of dry bones, returning to dust. For the first time, facing an ordinary mortal, he actually felt a little emotional and a little regretful. The Yulin beast carried its master on its back, and seemed to sense his state of mind. It silently slowed down its pace and headed towards Qingshu County. The speed of the giant monster was extremely fast, and its 4 hooves bloomed with yellow clouds, as if it had merged into the earth, and was pushed forward by countless soil. In a few breaths, it was dozens of miles away, crossing the plain, and seeing a secluded valley. The valley is not big, surrounded by several mountains, with gurgling streams, full of spiritual energy, lush trees, very quiet and detached. A key refining family. Li Quanqing looked down, and realized that there was a small spiritual vein hidden here. There were immortal cultivators occupying the valley, establishing a family, and setting up a formation to protect it. The strongest among them was only at the 9th level of key refining, which was really not good enough, and the weak were pitiful. The Immortal dynasty ruled the world, and there were also other immortal cultivation forces and families under its command, relying on their breath to survive. After all, people have selfish desires, and the weak will always keep each other warm. Of course, these spiritual root children from aristocratic families can also go to the academy established by the Changsheng Dao to practice after being reviewed. In the future, if they have achieved success in cultivation, they can join the Changsheng Immortal dynasty, serve it, sit in one place, and herd all living things. It is equivalent to entering the court, having an organization, and being able to nurture the family in turn, and strengthen the bloodline clan. These things are completely impossible to prevent, and the fairness and justice of the Changsheng Dao can only be said to be relative. It can make the mortal immortal seedlings and these aristocratic family disciples try their best to be on the same starting line. Li Quanqing looked at this quiet valley. Those formations were just decorations in front of him, and he could see through them at a glance. At the edge of this spiritual vein, there were large rice fields and grains, all of which were mortal crops. The heavy rice ears hung there, golden, and there was no end in sight. There were so many of them that they were enough to feed tens of thousands of people. The immortals plow the fields to offset the spiritual taxes of the immortal dynasty. Such an abundant supply of food can ensure the large-scale reproduction of mortals. Li Quanqing looked at this grain field. Because it was next to the edge of the spiritual vein, there were immortal cultivators who could cast spells. This ordinary mortal rice can be harvested in 2 or 3 months, and can be used to offset the spiritual stones for taxation. As for the previous village, the grain crops between the ridges were just to find something for mortals to do. Their real task was to give birth to babies, so as to breed a sufficient number of immortal seedlings, and strengthen the entire Changsheng immortal dynasty. The jade scale beast continued to move forward, and encountered 5 or 6 immortal cultivation families along the way, all of which were like this. Even the foundation building clans also planted tens of thousands of acres of mortal food on the outermost edge of the spiritual land, which was very pleasing to the eye. Taking advantage of the night, in just 1 stick of incense, they crossed a distance of 500 miles, and arrived in Qingshu County. A powerful formation flickered, the spiritual light rushed into the sky, and the immortal energy boiled, finally having some of the demeanor of an immortal cultivator. Even though it was late at night, there were still many magic tools flickering, rising, or falling, and suddenly going away, which seemed quite lively. Unexpectedly, Qingshu County was surrounded by open space, and there were also large tracts of rice fields and wheat crops planted. Now they were being harvested, and a stack of barns rose from the ground. It can only be said that the policy of the Changsheng Dao really regards mortals as very important. Li Quanqing put away the jade scale beast and walked towards the city. Although there were cultivators standing at the city gate, guarding day and night, they did not need to pay spiritual stones as the entrance fee. In the dark night, both sides of the street were illuminated by sunlight stones. The main roads were all paved with 3-foot long and 1-foot wide rocks as the foundation, and they were not muddy. Li Quanqing swept his spiritual sense, and immediately understood the distribution of buildings in the city. He found the county magistrate, who was a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. He walked in the city, and felt that the biggest difference was that immortal cultivators and mortals lived together here, and even mortals could live with dignity. Eternal Life Academy. Li Quanqing passed by a group of buildings, palaces, and pavilions, which were built very carefully, with abundant spiritual energy and Taoist charm. It was the place where the immortal Taoism cultivated immortal seedlings. In the deep night, there were still many immortal seedlings who were practicing hard, either meditating and breathing, or drawing talismans, and thinking about the art of refining pills and refining tools. In addition to this Changsheng Academy, there are 7 or 8 academies around, and the immortal seedlings cultivated in them are much worse. Li Quanqing stopped to watch, and immediately figured out the word volume. All the immortal seedlings were striving to be the first and stand out, and they dared not be negligent. He crossed the street, and arrived at the Qingshu County Yamen. The Yamen runners who came and went all had cultivation, and they were very close to the Changsheng Academy. It can be said that this is the core of the entire Qingshu County. It is heavily guarded, and the formation is shrouded all around. The void is filled with the faint glow of the formation pattern. Li Quanqing swaggered and walked into the main gate of this immortal Yamen. Those patrolling key refining monks could hardly detect his traces. He walked through the Yamen, courtyards, gardens, etc. and came to the residence of the county magistrate. The formation was shrouded and closed, and he was practicing. Knock knock. Li Quanqing knocked on the door gently. The layer of formation aura seemed to be non-existent in front of him. It knocked directly on the door, making a crisp sound. It was very harsh in the silent night. Who? The Qingshu County magistrate was awakened directly. He did not fall into a deep retreat, but was just meditating and regulating his breath. He looked at the intact formation and immediately realized that he had met a master. The Qingshu County magistrate did not wantonly probe his spiritual sense to spy on the monks outside. This behavior would easily anger those old seniors, who were moody. He just tidied his clothes, got up from the futon, took out the jade card to open the formation, and then opened the 2 carved doors. In the dim moonlight, a young man in a green robe stood there, looking at him quietly, with an immortal style and extraordinary appearance. He looked like an old monster who had lived for who knows how many years, and had the ability to maintain his appearance. Every move he made was with a condescending attitude. Li Quanqing was about to introduce himself, but he didn't expect that the middle-aged cultivator in front of him suddenly bowed respectfully. Li Yuang, the 6th rank immortal official of the Chengsheng Immortal Dynasty, greets Senior Master Han He. Do you recognize me? When Li Quanqing was in the Golden Elixir stage, he traveled in the East China Sea under the name of Master Han He. Now that he has broken the elixir and become an infant, this title has also been passed on. It is a hard requirement for officials of the Immortal Dynasty like us to remember the appearance of every senior master in the world of cultivation, so as to avoid making mistakes and contradicting the seniors. Li Yuang smiled slightly and spoke with a little pride. Chapter 394 Teleportation Array. Since the other party recognized his identity, everything would be easy to talk about. The only thing that surprised Li Quanqing was the powerful ability of Chengsheng Dao to collect information. It actually recorded the famous Gengjin great cultivators in the 5 domains of immortal cultivation. Perhaps even many Yuanying old monsters who had escaped from the world knew clearly their faces, personalities, and backgrounds. Senior Han He, did you come to Shinsao continent this time to travel and practice? Li Yuang was very respectful and invited this Yuanying Gengjin to the reception hall. He began to recall all the information about Gengjin Han He. He was a Xianzang cultivator who had risen in recent years in the East China Sea immortal cultivation world. He was born in an immortal family and was quite young. It was rumored that he had the appearance of a god. Not only that, he also had a close relationship with the East China Sea overlord, 4C sect, and also had a deep friendship with the big shot of Chengsheng Dao. He had no choice but to receive him carefully. I was invited by senior brother Zhao Khan to come to the Immortal Dynasty to take a look. Unfortunately, I lost my way after landing, so I found you here. Li Quanqing looked at the Immortal Court, which was originally in a dormant state. Because of his arrival, it suddenly became busy. This is the weight and status of the Yuanying Great Monk. It turns out to be Master Zhao. Li Yuang suddenly became more respectful. This man is in the limelight in the Immortal Dynasty. He is a 1st rank official. At the same time, he has led his monks and confidants to start the journey of exploring the heavens. The real core monks of the Longevity Dao will participate in these tasks of exploring the heavens. Although it is very dangerous, it is also very rewarding. People like Li Yuang who stay in various places to serve as county magistrates of the Immortal Court are actually mediocre talents. There is no room for improvement. They just want to spend the rest of their lives in peace. I have informed senior brother Zhao, so you don't have to worry too much. I came to disturb you late at night just to say hello. Li Quanqing sat in the first seat, tasting a cup of fragrant tea. The communication jade pendant in his palm flickered, and he had already informed Zhao Khan of his location. Li Yuang was also relieved when he heard this. Although it might be a great opportunity to meet such a big man, it is better to live a simple life. Hey, interesting. Li Quanqing was waiting for news and suddenly raised his eyebrows, noticing something interesting. It was a few powerful officials in the King Shizanya who wanted to seek a future for their family. So he secretly thought about it and called a few children and clansmen who were practicing in the academy in the middle of the night. Most of them were beautiful girls who were walking towards this side. After all, for the small Kingshu County, his arrival was like a 9-day dragon fall into the mortal world, making all the people submit and difficult to reach. If he was really favored by the Yuanying Gengjin and taken as a concubine or disciple, it would undoubtedly be a step to heaven for their clan. Unfortunately, they could not imagine the power of the great cultivator, and all their painstaking plans fell into Li Quanqing's ears word by word. This bunch of bastards. Li Yuang was also very angry at this time, noticing the actions of this group of officials. If it were a legitimate method, it would be fine, but some people have bad intentions and want to use those things that are not worthy of being on the stage. Isn't it going to bring disaster to the entire Kingshu County? It can only be said that their cultivation and vision are too low. They have never been exposed to the level of Yuanying, know very little, and make unwarranted speculations. The younger generation will go and deal with it personally. If I disturb the tranquility of the seniors, it is really my fault. Li Yuang was angry, but also a little helpless. Although he was the county magistrate and a 6th rank immortal official, Behind these officials stood the local foundation building clans in Qingshu County, and their clansmen had served in the Immortal government for generations. Some of them even had people in the court, or the legacy of the previous cultivators, and they were fearless. After all, the Immortal cultivators have lived for too long. For hundreds of years, a casual word of favor can maintain more than a dozen generations. Li Quanqing did not feel offended, but rather found it quite interesting. There was really a kind of intrigue in the officialdom, which lacked the indifference and purity of the Immortal cultivators. This can also be considered a kind of tempering. The worldly world refines a heart. If one can forge a firm heart for the Tao, one will have hope for longevity. He saw some of the tricks. Some people stay away from the secular world, live alone in a mountain, ignore the secular world, live freely and at ease, and place their trust in the world. Some people suppress demons and hunt monsters. At the moment of life and death, they break through the limit and comprehend a sword heart from killing. These are just means to seek the Tao. The great roads are different, but the ultimate goal is the same. Suddenly, the jade pendant hummed, and Zhao Kan's reply came. The nearest Chindan cultivator has been sent to pick him up. The governor of Donghae County, a Chindan Zenran, the lord of the Immortal City. Li Quanqing glanced at the busy Qingshu County magistrate, and stopped disturbing him. His figure turned into a ripple of water, and disappeared in the hall, and suddenly disappeared. He walked in the air, strolling in the clouds, and the strong wind whistled, blowing his robes, and making a rustling sound, like an immortal returning on the wind. The sky was whitening. The journey was slow and steady, but it took a whole night. The jade rabbit fell to the west, leaving only a few dim stars. Just now in the Immortal Court, Li Quanqing had figured out the approximate location of the East Sea County city. Now, with a single step, 1,000 miles was just a piece of cake. In the blink of an eye, thousands of miles of mountains and rivers flew by under his feet. A vast immortal city stood in front of him, located on the bank of a large river, with turbid waves surging, and directly converging into the East China Sea. Is this the governor of the East Sea County? Li Quanqing looked down, and saw a middle-aged monk with a round figure. He rode auspicious clouds, and flew up into the sky in a hurry. Behind him were many colorful ceremonial guards, stretching for nearly 100 miles, looking very grand. It's quite bureaucratic. Li Quanqing laughed dumbly, waved his sleeves lightly, and the sky and the earth spun, and the Chindan monk was captured and landed on the clouds in front of him. Meet Senior Han Hei. The governor of Donghae County has a good cultivation level, and has also reached the great perfection of the golden elixir. After all, he is in charge of the coast of the East China Sea and his position is quite important. Unfortunately, his magic power is frivolous. It is obvious that he has swallowed a lot of elixirs. He is far from being an elite cultivator of the Immortal dynasty. He is just smooth and shrewd in dealing with people. He is a good seedling for cultivating the great Dao of longevity. In the future, his true soul will be entrusted to the magic weapon. It is not a pity to abandon this bloated magic power. Has senior brother Zhao explained it? Li Quanqing looked at him. His attitude was quite easygoing, and he did not put too much pressure on him. Respect the decree of the true lord. My uncle has just explained it. Open the teleportation formation, and send you to the Changchun Immortal City. He is waiting for you there. The governor of Donghae County showed a flattering smile, squinting his green bean eyes, slightly flattering. Teleportation formation. Changchun Immortal City. When Li Quanqing heard the name of this immortal city, he immediately thought of his good friend Li Quanqing, who is probably facing the same Yuanying natural chasm. They descended from the clouds, and arrived at the deepest part of Donghae County City. Suddenly they saw a silver-white magic circle, which opened and turned into a vortex, that was spinning gently. Chapter 395 Yuanying Gift. Li Quanqing looked at the teleportation array in front of him. The silver-white void power entangled and intertwined, turning into a vortex that kept rotating, leading to the unknown distance. This technology had long been lost in the East China Sea's Yuxin world, but the Changsheng Dao relied on many excavated relics to perfectly reproduce it. However, due to the huge consumption of the teleportation array, it was only set up in the Chindan County cities on the mainland. The skeleton of the void beast. Li Quanqing looked at the two sides of the space channel. The silver-white statue stood like a combination of a lion and a pegasus, majestic and sacred. It was exactly the appearance of the void beast. Inside these statues, there were pure silver skeletons buried, emitting a strong void breath, maintaining the stability of this transmission channel. Reporting to the senior, the coordinates of the teleportation array have been adjusted. If you pass through it, you can reach Gengjin Immortal City. Li Quanqing nodded, no longer hesitated, stepped into the channel, and suddenly a strong void force wrapped him up. A familiar feeling came, somewhat like the underwater secret passage in the Kingayu Sea, but more stable. Silver white streams of light flew before his eyes, enveloping his body, and flying quickly forward, like a fish breaking free from the shackles of the ocean. Finally, at the end of the space passage, an oval-shaped dark exit appeared, and the surrounding space power burst out like lightning. Li Quanqing struggled lightly and immediately got out of it. A slightly dazzling light bloomed from the sky, and finally turned into a rising sun. "We are here." Li Quanqing exhaled a breath of turbid air, and suddenly felt the rich life essence, which came overwhelmingly, rushing to drill into his flesh and blood. What a rich plant essence. As he breathed, the spiritual energy surged, accompanied by the fragrance of plants and trees, as if he was in a verdant ancient forest, and everything he saw was green. Li Quanqing's consciousness spread inch by inch, and then he realized that the fairy city under his feet was built on a sacred tree as big as a mountain. The sacred leaves were comparable to islands, and there were palaces covered by rosy clouds on it. Looking up, there were towering ancient trees all around, and sacred trees rose from the ground, also as high as the mountain peaks. The treetops looked like emerald green land, which was particularly shocking. According to the classification, there are 3 types of cities in the Changsheng Immortal Dynasty, from low to high, namely county towns and fairy cities. Although the latter 2 are both guarded by giant and cultivators, the grade of the fairy city is much higher, and they are all guarded by the real core disciples of the Changsheng Dao. As for the residents of Yuanying's engine, it is not very clear. Senior Han Hei, Uncle Zhao has been waiting for a long time, please follow me. 2 young cultivators arrived, 1 male and 1 female, both of whom were peerless in appearance. They all had giant and cultivation, wore Changsheng Dao robes, and had a calm and composed temperament. Li Quanqing walked in this fairy city. A leaf of a sacred tree was a street. It looked quite prosperous, and there were few traces of mortals. They reached the highest tree canopy, where a 5-colored palace was suspended, releasing the essence of the 5 element, like a waterfall falling down, washing everything. Dao Li, I haven't seen you for a long time. Congratulations on breaking through the pill and becoming an infant. You are truly on the road, overlooking the hundreds of millions of cultivators in the world, and spying on immortality. Zhao Qian came to greet him in person, wearing a 5-colored lotus robe, with a ring suspended behind his head, blazing like the sun, constantly rotating, releasing an unfathomable aura. This guy's cultivation has become stronger. Li Quanqing was in the same realm, and immediately spied on the other party's cultivation, which was the great perfection of the nascent soul. Even in the ancient times, when it had not fallen, this kind of cultivator was also incredible. He was a true ancestor level figure, enough to create a sect that has lasted for thousands of years. After all, the essence of the 5-element ring is here. Even if a 4th level top grade spiritual treasure is severely damaged, it is also easy to make up for the origin. The 2 Yuanying's engines walked into the hall with a smile. After all, they had known each other for a long time, and had a deep bond. They were having a good chat at this time, and they both felt that the other had changed a lot. It's a pity that junior brother Quanqing is now in seclusion, comprehending the great way of longevity, aiming to form a Yuanying. He can only ask me to take care of this fairy city, and can't come out to see you. Li Quanqing recalled that when he first met Li Quanqing, both of them were only in the middle stage of Jinden. They met by chance in the outer space, and felt that they had met too late, so they traveled the galaxy together. He thought of the unique secret method of longevity in the Xian dynasty. It seemed that Li Quanqing had also found a suitable object to entrust his true spirit. He didn't know what kind of Yuanying spiritual treasure it was. Such secret things would naturally not be known to him as an outsider. Although junior brother Quanqing has been in seclusion for a long time, He is sure that you can succeed in forming a baby, so he has prepared a gift for you. Please let me give it to you. Zhao Kan smiled slightly and took out 2 jade boxes in a flip of his hand. There is also a share of mine in it. I will also give it to you now to see if it suits your heart. Thank you, senior brother. Li Quanqing was moved, and with a bit of curiosity, he stretched out his hand to open the jade box. Suddenly, the blue and red lights shone together, like fireworks exploding here. What came into view were 2 beads of different colors, representing the pure avenue of fire and the avenue of wood respectively. Is this the 5 elements spirit bead? Li Quanqing asked with some surprise. When exploring the ruins of the 5 elements sect, the seal of the final demon was broken, and 5 spirit beads flew out of it, and were divided among several people. It was refined in imitation of a legendary treasure in the fairy world. Together with the water spirit bead in his hand, there are now 3 pieces, which makes people curious about how powerful it will be when the 5 elements are complete. Although these beads have extraordinary origins, they cannot be gathered together, and their effects are limited after all. I have studied them thoroughly, so I will give them to you. Zhao Kan continued. The other 2 spirit beads are just treasured by the beast taming sect. If you can gather them together, it will be a great opportunity. Li Quanqing heard the hint in the other party's words. He is about to hold the nascent soul ceremony. At that time, he will invite all the major forces in the East China Sea, and naturally there will be various gifts. If he uses the relationship with the 4C sect and hints to the beast taming sect, perhaps he can really gather a complete set of spirit beads. Thank you for your help, senior brother. Li Quanqing put away the spirit beads and kept this in mind. He can plan something. They talked as they walked and finally came to the outside of a hall. The whole body showed the deep color of the starry sky, and there were endless star maps carved on it. A vast space force surged out. This is. Li Quanqing looked at the 2 silver hall doors and sensed the power of the void beast from them and immediately had some guesses. This senior brother Zhao is really impatient. He just arrived and didn't have a welcome party or a banquet. He couldn't wait to pull him here, hoping that he would join the exploration of the journey to the heavens. I think you have guessed it. I said before that when you form a baby, we will explore the world together. Now is a good time to show it. Zhao Kan laughed and waved his sleeves. With a rumbling sound, the hall opened. Chapter 396, Rituals of the Heavens. The door of the palace slowly opened, and suddenly the rich starlight bloomed, like a waterfall, venting out with a rumbling sound. The whistling wind appeared along with the starlight, blowing the hair of the 2 people, and making their robes rustle. After the energy was vented, Li Quanqing stepped into the hall, and looked at the 4-sided palace. On the walls as deep as the starry sky, star maps bloomed one after another, transformed into ancient runes, and the nebula was brilliant, as if explaining the secrets of the heavens. Li Quanqing recalled a theory that Zhao Kan had mentioned. In the deepest part of the outer void, the most dazzling starry brilliance is not actually a real planet, but a projection of other worlds across endless distances. In the shining starry sky, there may be countless world coordinates hidden, waving to them, the immortal cultivators. The 2 true Lord cultivators walked towards the depths of the hall. Even the floor under their feet was also engraved with star patterns, and it kept changing with time. Li Quanqing looked up and saw steps rising from the ground, flowing with starlight, turning into a mountain-like altar. It was so magnificent, standing before his eyes. As he approached, he saw thousands of silver white rings rotating above the altar, like star rings slowly rotating, carrying the surging power of the void. The surface of these rings was engraved with countless words and symbols, like the inscriptions of Dao marks, rotating with each other, turning into the shape of a star, with an extremely mysterious trajectory. This is the ritual of the heavens, and it can be called the most dazzling fruit of the great way of longevity. Zhao Kan introduced it with a bit of pride. Outside the world, some people call it chaos, some people call it nothingness, or a more vivid boundary sea. Chaos is boundless. There is no distinction between the 4 directions and the upper and lower. There is an unimaginable distance between each world. Even a cultivator of the transformation of the spirit will get lost. But relying on this ritual, opening the door of Takesu, we can split out a series of soul seeds, wandering in the chaotic boundary sea, and find the coordinates of other worlds. In Zhao Qian's palm, 5 colored streamers bloomed, like vines interweaving and growing, branches and leaves drooping, and finally condensed into a dazzling fruit as dazzling as stars. Li Quanqing looked at this starlight fruit, in which countless runes intertwined, as if turning into a vast world, shining in the chaos. Could it be, this is a world coordinate? Li Quanqing's eyes widened slightly, and he spoke with some shock. Yes, this is the world I'm responsible for conquering. The Quanran tribe lives there, and the resources are quite rich. As long as we have a world coordinate, and the rituals of the heavens, we can go there in the flesh, and obtain rich resources. As Zhao Qian's words fell, the star map on the top of the hall suddenly lit up, and the light intertwined, turning into one starlight fruit after another shining. These fruits are like shrunken stars, shrouded in glory, rotating around the silver-white heavenly instrument, and the distance is far or near. Obviously, these are all real-world coordinates, and the number is close to 1000, which is shocking. It can be said that it is the accumulation of tens of thousands of years of longevity and the persistent exploration of those Yuanying Zenjin that have created the current glory of the Immortal dynasty. Unfortunately, we have been trying to find the real coordinates of the immortal world, but to no avail. A senior brother speculated that the real immortal world has surpassed the heavens and myriad worlds, and is located in another dimension. In addition, the origin of the demon race, heavenly demon realm, has also not been found by us, otherwise we would have entered it long ago, letting them taste the bitter fruit of having their hometown invaded. Zhao Qian shook his head and sighed, with regret in his words. When he mentioned the heavenly demon realm, a sharp light flashed in his eyes. It was the hundreds of thousands of years of invasion and endless wars by the demon race that led to the shattering of the heaven and earth of the immortal world in the incomplete laws. It is difficult to breed a spiritual cultivator. Li Quanqing walked on the altar and touched these star fruits, but they were just phantoms that appeared one after another and did not contain the real world coordinates. What do you think, fellow Daoist? If you are willing to recognize my concept of longevity, these world coordinates will be open to you, and you can explore them. It must be said that the policies of the Immortal dynasty are really tempting, especially for those Yuanying Zenjin who are about to die. It is an elixir that is hard to refuse. Li Quanqing looked at the coordinates of more than 1,000 stars and suddenly had a doubt. Since the world of cultivation is broken, can we go to these worlds and break through to the god of transformation? Unfortunately, the true Lord cultivators of the Immortal dynasty have already tried it, but all failed in the end, and none of them succeeded. Zhao Qian shook his head. The worlds that can carry the birth of the god of transformation are all the top worlds. We have not found any yet, and it is speculated that the distance is too far. In addition, when the nascent soul cultivators nurture the body of the Yuanshan, they will also plunder part of the origin of the world, so they will be brought down by the powerful 99 heavens tribulation. If you go to a strange world to break through, as an outsider, you will naturally be targeted, and the disaster will be more terrible, and you will die. When Li Quanqing heard this, his interest in exploring the heavens was dispersed a lot. If you can't break through to the god of transformation, you can only follow the secret method of the longevity Dao, and abandon your physical body, which is really unacceptable. Zhao Qian saw that his friend was not interested, so he didn't persuade him much. When there is no hope in the future, he will naturally join the Immortal dynasty. He took out a silver white ring, shaped like a bracelet, engraved with secret texts and symbols, like a miniature starring of the heavens. This is the ritual of the heavens. Although it is not as good as the one in front of you, it can also be used to explore the Chaos Sea. Don't rush to refuse. After the birth of each Yuanying Zenjin, as long as they have a predestined relationship with the Immortal dynasty, they will receive this gift. It is a little thought from my Taoist master of the longevity Dao. Li Quanqing looked at the silver ring and couldn't help but marvel at the spirit of the longevity Dao. Such a precious thing was given away as soon as it was said. He had also heard of this mysterious Taoist master of the longevity Dao. He was definitely the most mysterious old monster in the world of immortal cultivation. With the help of the body of the instrument spirit, he didn't know how many years he had lived. He single-handedly created the powerful and prosperous Changsheng Immortal dynasty today, overlooking the years. Li Quanqing took the ring. This was a space magic weapon, which contained a set of rituals of the heavens. It was 100 feet high, comparable to a mountain. After sending out a few gifts, I finally feel relieved. Zhao laughed, and his finger fell. The runes on his fingertips flickered, and were imprinted on the surface of the ritual on the altar. Now that we have finished this matter, let's continue to discuss how to help fellow Taoists Void Butterfly break through the nascent soul realm. Click. One after another, silver white star tracks rotated, and the rings turned endlessly. The entire ritual of the heavens opened, revealing the scene inside. There was actually a 4th level void beast lying there. Chapter 397 Silver Butterfly Baby. Boom. As the rituals of the heavens were opened, the star rings rotated and clicked, and runes flickered in the air, revealing the scene in the center of the altar. A 4th level void beast was entrenched there, with a single horn on its forehead and silver white fur all over its body. It looked like a majestic lion, but also as agile as a pegasus, looking holy and majestic. It opened its 2 pupils, shining with silver light, and its strong body was like a divine silver, scattering starlight, like a burning flame, with a touch of wisdom and vicissitudes in its eyes. This is fellow Daoist Zusheng. Join me in completing the task of exploring the heavens. Only the deep understanding of the void beasts for the great way of space can easily capture the information fluctuations of other worlds in the chaos, Zhao said, with a lot of respect in his attitude. In fact, the reason why the longevity path was able to walk out of this world of immortal cultivation and explore the Sea of Chaos was initially entirely due to the talents of the void beasts. Even now, the development of the rituals of the heavens still requires the assistance of this group. I'm Li Quanqing from the East Sea. I'm honored to meet you, Daoist Zusheng. It can be seen that this 4th rank demon beast, who is very old and has lived for a long time, is not very interested in the human cultivator in front of him. He just turned his pupils and nodded lightly. Li Quanqing understood and released the void butterfly from the vast sea bowl. A butterfly demon flew out of the bowl, its body shiny and slender, like a peerless fairy sword piercing the void, looming. Its 4 broad wings gently flapped, and pieces of silver light rain fell, like a meteor passing through the hall, shining brightly. This is the purest power of the void, scattered in all directions, causing the stable space to begin to ripple like water waves. Roar. When the old void beast saw this scene, his pupils suddenly lit up, brilliant and shining, and roared with a hint of intimacy, like an amiable elder of the tribe. Kai. The void butterfly flapped its wings in response. Its cry was ethereal and pleasant, and its mood was as arrogant and indifferent as ever. The 2 big monsters communicated in the language of the void beast clan. Although they looked different, their blood and the Taixu runes imprinted in their bones were the same. Many powerful monsters, although they can refine their throat bones and speak human language, still like to retain the habit of roaring when they were monsters, which represents the recognition of their identity. Language is the most primitive, simplest, and slowest way of communication. For Yuaning's engine like Li Quanqing, the information transmitted in an instant when their spiritual thoughts touch each other is enough to rival thousands of words. The void beast and the void butterfly stood on the altar, with silver light flickering around them, runes flowing, colliding, and blending with each other, just like human cultivators sitting and discussing. Finally, the old void beast let out a roar, with a look of satisfaction, and a tiny silver white star flew out of its body, like a transparent crystal, and drilled into the sea of consciousness of the void butterfly. Zhao understood his roar and explained. Fellow Daoist Sheng likes this junior very much, so he passed on his cultivation experience of breaking through the 4th level to fellow Daoist Li's battle pet. Moreover, fellow Daoist Zusheng also told me that, if I want the void butterfly to successfully break through the nascent soul, it is best to go to the depths of the outer space, the holy land of the void beast clan. Li Quanqing summoned the void butterfly, and the butterfly demon flapped its wings, and flew around him. It looked very happy, and its body was like a sea of silver. The holy land of the void beast clan, the sea of white and silver stars. He stroked the wings of the void butterfly, which were very thin but very tough. He couldn't help but think of the place where he first met it. It was a silver white starfield deep in the outer space, with countless big stars rumbling and rotating, like a sea of gravel, with no end in sight. Okay, I will take it to the depths of the starry sky. Li Quanqing nodded, and did not refuse. This was very likely the first nascent soul demon beast in his life. No need to be so troublesome. The ritual of the heavens can anchor the myriad worlds, and it will be very easy to go to the Silver Sea. As the front limbs of the void beast fell, silver light suddenly lit up, several star rings began to rotate, runes entangled, and the power of the void boiled, turning into a silver-white passage. Li Quanqing couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this. This senior brother Zhao was really vigorous and resolute. He didn't have time to visit this Changchun fairy city properly. However, it was hard to refuse the kindness, and he was not a person who would procrastinate, so he prepared to step into it and stand up to experience the power of this ritual of the heavens. The void butterfly had already reached the great perfection of the golden elixir and was trapped before the bottleneck. At this time, through the natural closeness to the void road, after confirming that there was no problem with this teleportation array, it took the initiative to drill into it. When Li Quanqing was also covered by the silver light, Zhao Kan waved goodbye and started the ritual. In an instant, the rotation of the starring suddenly accelerated. In the twisted air, a silver light flew out with a bang, flew straight out from the top of the hall, and penetrated the layers of Texu space. The silver light cut through the sky, broke through the strong wind, and in a few breaths, it passed through the 9 layers of clouds, and came to the dark outside the domain. And the stars in the sky were dazzling. Li Quanqing used the power of Cheyenne to protect himself and the void butterfly. This feeling was quite wonderful, far more intense than the teleportation array, and the pressure on the body was great. Even for a foundation building cultivator, after experiencing such a rough space shuttle, the body would still collapse and the flesh would be broken into mud. When all the silver light dissipated and the space gradually stabilized, they had already crossed the boundless galaxy and successfully arrived at the holy land of the Void Beast clan. In the depths of the universe, a brilliant galaxy was vast and boundless, and countless stars were like silver sand inlaid in this dreamy sky, emitting a soft and dazzling brilliance. This is a real silver sea, with shining stars, undulating mountains, and deep in the Earth's crust buried ethereal crystals containing a large amount of spatial power. Each star seems to have its own life, rotating and wandering rapidly, with countless void worms living inside. These huge worms are shaped like earthworms, but they have no eyes or ears, only a big mouth, constantly swallowing the power of the void to strengthen themselves. By chance, those whose blood returns to their ancestors can transform into a powerful and noble void beast. The void butterfly returned to its hometown, and its emotions were also quite high. The light around it surged, like a silver flame burning, and the demonic energy was surging. It kept flapping its wings, attracting the debris of the stars around it, and finally buried itself, turning into a small Mercury-like star, and merged into this silver sea. Countless silver stars rushed together, like waves converging, and kept moving forward, as if a mysterious blood ritual, resonance awakening. Li Quanqing found it quite interesting. For this powerful demon beast that exists in the form of a tribe, every major breakthrough in cultivation cannot be achieved without the help of the tribe members. Moreover, the Void Beast clan is a true immortal mount, with the blood of some powerful true spirits, and is born close to the great avenue of the void space. There are really too many secrets hidden. The only thing Li Quanqing could do was to take out the 5 Thunder Mieluo umbrella and the void scissors and throw them into the depths of the stars. The void butterfly did not refuse the help of its master. These 2 powerful spiritual treasures could make it easier to survive the thunder tribulation. Afterwards, it sank into the deepest retreat of cultivation, returned to the embrace of the tribe, and attacked the bottleneck of the nascent soul. Li Quanqing was completely relieved. He found an empty shell star at random, took out the ritual of the heavens that Zhao Kan gave him, and began to study it. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited about the exploration of the heavens. Time is invisible, not to mention that in the depths of the starry sky, there is no difference between day and night. It was unknown how long it had been, until this day, the void butterfly finally moved again, awakening from its long sleep, and completing the advancement and awakening of its bloodline. 2 years have passed. Li Quanqing turned his eyes away from the ritual, and his nascent soul felt the great Dao of heaven and earth, and immediately knew the specific time. Boom. The starry sky was dead silent, and it was difficult for sound to propagate in a vacuum. But at this moment, there was a sudden roar of thunder, as if the waking of insects had arrived. Chapter 398. Gate of the Void. The universe was cold and dark, but at this moment, a cloud of even deeper and darker disaster suddenly descended, like a black hole that swallowed everything, expanding outward continuously. Rays of lightning snakes shuttled back and forth. The light was scorching and dazzling. It was clearly in a vacuum, but there was actually a roar of thunder, and the might of heaven shocked everything. Clang! With a loud bang, the stars where the void butterfly was hiding were torn into pieces, and silver white light shot out from them, like a fairy sword piercing the sky. Sensing the power of the heavenly disaster, the void insects around them manipulated the stars they were hiding in and fled frantically, like birds and beasts being attacked. Even a few stars also exploded, and silver white void beasts emerged from them. All of them had the cultivation of Gengjin, and fled to the distance in the starry sky. The void butterfly spread its four wings that covered the sky and the sun, without any fear. The rich light flowed over its body, and finally turned into a sharp light of the void. It flapped its wings vigorously, and rushed towards the thunder tribulation above its head. Silver light rain bloomed all over the sky, like a meteor, and like a sea of fire burning, tempering a peerless immortal sword. Boom. The thunder roared, deafening, and the first thunder fell with a bang, and thunder bloomed all over the sky, drowning the void butterfly, like a torrential rain, extinguishing the silver flame. It can be seen that in the dazzling lightning, a touch of five-colored rosy light bloomed, condensing into the shape of a treasure umbrella, which was extremely tenacious. Although the 5 Thunder Mieluo umbrella has not been repaired, it has not been seriously damaged, and can continue to resist the thunder tribulation, but it will further aggravate the damage. Li Quanqing looked at this monster beast thunder tribulation, and also released Aoking and other golden elixir monsters from the vast sea bowl, and protected them with magic power. With the potential of these battle pets, breaking through the nascent soul is also a big bottleneck. At this time, witnessing the void butterfly's tribulation is also a lot of help. At least Aoking was watching it very seriously, and even wanted to take the initiative to contact those scattered thunderbolts to temper his scaled and armored body. But! Exclamation mark. Suddenly, the surroundings shook slightly, and ripples appeared in the space. A majestic and holy void beast appeared, which was extremely powerful and mysterious. It looked like a divine lion, with a thunder horn on its forehead, a slender and agile body like a Pegasus, a pair of broad wings spread out behind it, and limbs similar to dragon claws, covered with fine scales, and extremely sharp. Immortal cultivators have a good memory, and it can be said that they can remember everything they see. Li Quanqing recognized it at a glance. He had seen this void beast in the past. It was the guardian of the tribe. It was only after the other party's approval that he successfully took away the void butterfly and became a partner. I didn't expect that in such a short time. You have grown to such a powerful level. The human race is really incredible creatures. The pupils of the void beast turned extremely bright, like 2 small silver suns, flowing with great divine power, speaking human words. That is a low and vicissitudes of life male voice. Senior. Li Quanqing hesitated a little. He wanted to call him Daoist friend, but finally changed the name. Now that he has condensed the nascent soul and comprehended the world, he naturally noticed the strangeness of this void beast. Not only is the breath vast, like the unfathomable starry sky, but it also gives people a special feeling, similar to the body of Zaokan's instrument spirit. Li Quanqing had some guesses in his heart, but he didn't say it out loud, showing respect for the strong. I have helped her awaken her bloodline. Whether she can survive the catastrophe depends on luck. The void beast looked at the void butterfly who was crossing the thunder tribulation. If he hadn't helped secretly, how could it be possible to make up for the nascent soul foundation in just 2 years? Boom. Thunders fell one after another. The power of heaven was mighty. The lightning tore through the darkness of the universe, bringing unprecedented light, and all the void bugs were trembling with fear. Not a bad secret treasure for overcoming the tribulation. The void beast looked at the 5 Thunder Mieluo umbrella, and a little interest emerged in his pupils. He actually saw some traces of the immortal world's refining technique from it. Obviously, this is an ancient treasure. The creator of this refining method has probably heard the sermons of the immortals who descended to the world. It's a pity that after this tribulation, this Mialuo umbrella will probably be in trouble. Li Quanqing sighed, and he could see thunders drilling into the 5-colored rays of light along the crack, splitting the umbrella surface into a charred black. Instead of bothering to repair it, it would be better to consider how to gather the materials and refine another one. The void beast saw some details of the 5 Thunder Mialuo umbrella, and silver light bloomed between its wings, suddenly turning into a vortex and spitting out a millstone-sized crystal from it. This is my treasure. It's not very useful except for its beauty, so I'll give it to you as a reward for training the descendants of my clan. Li Quanqing looked at it carefully and saw a golden thread sealed in the crystal. It was coiled into a circle and was sharper than a sword. This was actually a spiritual thread with the attribute of Gengjin, which was tough and extremely sharp. Such a large number was enough for him to refine a 5 Thunder Mirror umbrella again. Of course, he would need spiritual threads with other 5 element. Boom. The 49th Thunder Tribulation continued to descend, never stopping. It had come to the last few. The thunder was thick and more dazzling, with a destructive wave. The void butterfly was covered in blood and fought, but it was still indomitable. It flapped its butterfly wings, like 2 immortal swords soaring into the sky, with peerless sharpness. As a secret treasure for surviving the tribulation, the mirror umbrella exerted its last remaining power and finally successfully helped the spirit butterfly survive the tribulation of the heavenly power, and soar into the sky from the tribulation cloud. As the thunder entangled, a vast and pure spiritual energy descended from the sky, like a sweet rain, nourishing the void butterfly's depleted original power. At this time, Li Quanqing became particularly nervous. Whether it was the human race or the monster creatures, they were all treated equally, and were about to face the power of the inner demon. Without the corresponding secret treasures to assist, it was unknown whether the void butterfly could survive safely. Hey. But at this moment, the void beast roared, shaking the starry sky, and an extremely dazzling silver light burst out from its body. This light swept across the entire silver sea, and every star was shining at this time, contributing its own power to protect the bloodline clan. A ray of light appeared, and finally turned into a silver white armor, engraved with countless star patterns, protecting the void butterfly in it. Li Quanqing looked at this scene, but felt a little familiar, and thought of the holy infant pill he had used before. It can also turn into a holy light to protect the body, and avoid the harm of the inner demon, which can minimize the power of the nascent soul tribulation. As he thought, with the blessing of the Holy Land, the wings of the void butterfly fluttered gently, successfully overcame the difficulty of the inner demon, and broke free from the mist. Along with the roar of the outer demon, wisps of white gas gathered, and turned into a shining ball of light, which was particularly bright, and there seemed to be runes flashing inside. Harvest a void butterfly in the early stage of the nascent soul, and reward the rare treasure of the immortal mansion Taksu Gate fragment. Right square bracket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399, Capturing Coordinates. The Gate of the Void, a rare treasure of the Immortal Palace, engraved with a complete avenue of the void space, which can shuttle through the heavens and travel between the myriad worlds. The words in front of Li Quanqing appeared, and actually contained a complete avenue. Even in an immortal weapon, it was an extraordinary existence. Can I use it as an anchor to find the coordinates and positions of other worlds when I shuttle through the myriad worlds? Li Quanqing thought of the rituals of the heavens. With only one coordinate, I could accurately cross the boundless chaos of the sea of boundaries and shuttle through the flesh. What's more, now that the void butterfly has successfully broken through the nascent soul realm, they will definitely be more stable and safe when they work together to activate the rituals. Gee. The void butterfly spread its 4 wings and swallowed up the essence in the sky like a silver white sun, shining. The thunder gradually disappeared, the calamity clouds dissipated, and the universe once again returned to its cold and dead appearance, leaving only a few star debris, silently telling the horror of this thunder calamity. The void beast was immediately pleased when he saw this scene. As the guardian of the Silver Sea, he had witnessed the rise of too many descendants of blood. For him, nothing was more important than the growth of the tribe, and he could protect it with everything. The void beast roared, and the unicorn rune flashed, roaring out his own tribe language, wanting to lead the void butterfly to the ancestral land, to receive the inheritance of the nascent soul realm. In addition, there was also the Void Beast clan, which had accumulated a lot of heritage over countless years, including various powerful 4th level spiritual treasures. They could be used for self-defense. The void butterfly also responded, but did not move immediately. Instead, it first came to Li Quanqing's side, hovering and flying 3 times, with silver light falling, as if celebrating. It can be seen that, although the spirit butterfly has been staying in the Hanhei bowl, after all, it has been raised for so long, and various blood contracts have been concluded, and it has developed a deep affection. Taking this opportunity, Li Quanqing stretched out his hand and grabbed it, carefully collecting the light ball. Afterwards, the void butterfly stretched its body, reluctant to leave, and followed the void beast to the Holy Land, passed down by its ancestors, like a silver-white fairy sword breaking through layers of space. In this process, dozens of void beasts also followed, drilling out from the stars, with silver light like flames all around them. It can be seen that they were very excited and roared. They are all in the Jiandan realm. After breaking through the Yuanying realm, they will be taken away by the Changsheng Dao to assist in exploring the heavens. Li Quanqing watched these holy spirit beasts leave. As a human, he would naturally not be allowed to stay here. Fortunately, his mind was not on any holy land, but on the light bowl reward he had just harvested. Li Quanqing took out the Hanhei bowl and crushed the light ball in the bowl to avoid being spied on by other creatures. He was a little impatient and wanted to see the legendary fairy house treasure as soon as possible. This was definitely a real treasure of the immortals. After the white light faded, a rice-sized fragment emerged. It was pure silver and looked ordinary at first glance. But if you observe carefully with your soul, you can see the scene of the heavens and the worlds, as if a starlight was floating in the sea of chaos, flashing colorful colors. Unfortunately, this strange phenomenon only lasted for a moment, and then it completely dissipated. The divine object was hidden, and turned into an ordinary silver again. No matter how Li Quanqing probed and guessed, he could no longer find the secret. There was only a vague incomplete rune imprinted on the surface of this fragment of the Taixu Gate. This is too small. Li Quanqing took out the Taixu Gate, and held it in his hand. Because of its high grade, there was no strange phenomenon at all, and it was ordinary. But he had expected that the void butterfly would only break through the nascent soul cultivation. Logically speaking, only a Tangshan Lingbao of the transformation god level would be rewarded. Immortal tools were a luxury. It was already a burst of luck to be able to open a fragment of the Immortal Palace's rare treasure. Can such a small fragment help capture the world coordinates and open the heavens? Li Quanqing looked at the ritual of the heavens not far away with a doubtful attitude. It was 100 feet tall and looked like a mountain. According to Zhao Qian, although this ritual is not the strongest version, it has all the necessary functions and can be used for a cross-border journey. Click. As the star rings rotated and opened, Li Quanqing flew into it and saw runes flowing around, as if traveling through a time and space channel. At the core, there was an altar suspended, which could be used to place coordinates, and it could also be explored by itself with the help of the power of the Void Beast. Can it work? Li Quanqing took out the fragment of the Taixu Gate here with a little trepidation, used it as a coordinate, and began to activate the ritual of the heavens. Unexpectedly, there was a harvest. The ritual rumbled and began to rotate non-stop. All the space runes lit up one after another, and finally a crack was opened. Buzz! Exclamation mark. The crack slowly expanded, and the surrounding area was glowing with silver white light, like a spider web covering the void, and finally turned into a foot long and more than 3 fingers wide. Moreover, the light was shining forever, and it seemed very unstable. It's reached the limit. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the altar, supporting the consumption of the ritual, and his mana had been running to the limit. Through the crack in front of him, his perception seemed to have crossed an infinite distance, and he saw an extremely magnificent and huge world that was far beyond the imagination of the cultivators, and it was mysterious. Li Quanqing himself did not expect that just one attempt would actually succeed and capture an extremely powerful world coordinate. Unfortunately, he was in the desolate starry sky after all, without the support of the spiritual veins of heaven and earth. It was too difficult to travel through the heavens with his own mana alone. This void crack lasted less than a breath before it collapsed. The flat space around it cracked and collapsed completely, and then in the self-repair of heaven and earth, it turned into a smooth mirror again, and returned to its original state. But no one expected that the last moment of the collapse of this passage, a stream of pure white spiritual energy came out of it. It was only as thick as a little finger, but it was extremely magical, crystal clear, and shimmering, attracting people's attention. Li Quanqing sensed the instinct of his body, and in the breath, he immediately refined the spiritual energy into his body. What surprised him was that it was just a thin stream of spiritual energy, but in the process of moving the skills, it actually restored most of his own nascent soul power. You know, as a top cultivator in the world, with just a casual breath, he could refine the spiritual energy within a radius of 100 miles and set off a tide. What level of world is this? The spiritual energy in Li Quanqing's meridians completely dissipated, turning into a long river of magic power, flowing into Danshan, nourishing the body of the nascent soul. The strange thing was that instead of feeling satisfied, he felt a strong sense of emptiness coming from his body, and his flesh and blood spasmed, like a starving ghost. Chapter 400 Immortality Particles. Li Quanqing sat cross-legged on the altar, his body full of vast magical power surging, like a great river, roaring wantonly in his meridians, looking extremely powerful. But strangely, instead of feeling satisfied, he felt an unbearable emptiness, and his flesh and blood shrank into a ball. It was as if something extremely important was flowing out of his body, like a knife cutting out his bones and flesh. What's going on? Li Quanqing was puzzled, and could only temporarily suppress the pain, use his nascent soul, comprehend the world, and silently look for the reason. The power of the nascent soul was like a net, scanning inch by inch, and finally discovered that this inexplicable spiritual energy, there was actually about 1/10,000th of the energy that could not be captured and refined by itself, and slowly dissipated between heaven and earth. These energy particles were as white as fog, and could not be observed by the naked eye at all, but they seemed to be the most fundamental component of that spiritual energy. Deep and mysterious, the rhyme of Taoism was natural and ethereal like a fairy. Li Quanqing could sense that every cell in his body was sending out extremely greedy thoughts, wanting to absorb all these energy particles. It was as if the dry earth longed for rain, the insects dormant in the dark longed to break out of their cocoons, and the hungry beasts longed for flesh and blood. That was the most fundamental desire of life itself, which could be called instinct and difficult to control. Li Quanqing silently comprehended himself, and finally came to a conclusion. If he could refine the energy of the mist, and nourish his body, he would be able to extend his life by nearly 10 years. Li Quanqing was completely shocked. What kind of world is this? It's just a breath, and it can extend the life of a Yuanying cultivator. It's simply against the sky. It's a bit like the legendary immortal energy. It is said that the cultivators in the upper realm have sufficient lifespans because they are exposed to immortal energy every day, so they can live longer than the cultivators in the lower realm. For example, the lifespan of a giant cultivator in the lower realm is only 500 years, but if they can ascend to the immortal realm, they can easily live for 1,000 years, comparable to the Yuanying's engine. A guess emerged in Li Quanqing's mind, and he felt his whole body trembling. If it is true, I'm afraid that all the Yuanying's engines in the entire cultivation world will go crazy for it. Even the immortal way is the same. After a long time, Li Quanqing calmed down his agitated mood. Now that the Takesu Gate is in hand, since he succeeded once, there will be a second, third, and even infinite times. He has enough time to prove his guess. Li Quanqing looked at these energies that seemed to be immortal energy and finally named them immortal particles. If they are studied thoroughly, they may be able to peek into the legendary secrets of immortals, and immortality is not a problem. He tried many methods to seal these immortal particles in his body for future research. Unfortunately, they all failed in the end. Even if they were contained in the body of the Yuanying, they seemed to be non-existent, and were directly penetrated by this wisp of immortal energy. It was just like the legendary Wanluo body. Whatever spiritual energy entered the body, it would run away cleanly. In the end, he could only watch these immortal particles dissipate in the universe, as if they were absorbed by this world. It's really strange. Even the spiritual energy of heaven and earth will not dissipate for no reason. These immortal particles are difficult to survive. Li Quanqing retracted his gaze. Did he add a bit of the origin of the world? The heavenly Dao was touched, and he should probably thank him. He put away the fragments of the Taixu Gate and the entire ritual of the heavens. He must be fully prepared before the real physical body crosses. After waiting for another 2 hours, the void butterfly finally came back. It seemed that he had gained a lot, and the whole body was shining with precious light. If it was seen by the precious light toad, it would definitely quack with excitement. Li Quanqing was worried at this time, and he didn't ask. He put away the butterfly monster directly, and then set off directly, using his life magic weapon to cross the universe, and fly towards the 5 domains continent. When he was a golden elixir, it took him a long time to travel through the outer space, but now his speed has naturally increased greatly. I saw a blue sea bowl, wrapped in the rosy glow, like a meteorite passing through the dark and cold cosmic dust, flying quickly towards the direction of the continent. The void butterfly sensed the owner's impatience and also helped. The 4 wide butterfly wings gently flapped, and the silver light swept across the entire vast sea bowl in an instant. The next moment, there was a flash of light, and the vast sea bowl disappeared in an instant, blending into the gaps between the layers of void, like a folded space. When they appeared again, they were already tens of thousands of miles away, appearing out of thin air. Space shuttle. This mysterious space magic is the origin of the teleportation formation, and represents the essence of the Void Avenue. Seeing this, Li Quanqing simply let the Void Butterfly control the vast sea bowl, and became familiar with the demonic energy of the nascent soul level. In the end, they spent 3 months, and returned to the Xianji continent, seeing the familiar scenery of the 5 domains. Li Quanqing did not continue to travel, but landed directly in the East China Sea, and chose to return to the family without attracting too much attention. Looking at the familiar dam, the fish pond was rippled, and the green jade carps chased the water plants and spit water arrows to play, and he relaxed completely. Li Quanqing took out the ritual of the heavens, placed it in the deepest part of the cave, and guarded it with a formation to block prying eyes. He drew the spiritual energy of the earth veins, and was nourished by the 4th level spiritual veins. The whole ritual suddenly made a humming sound, as if it had really come alive. The question now is, after going to that world, how can we return to the original world safely? Li Quanqing stroked the Taixu Gate, took out the jade card, and began to ask Brother Zhao. These problems may have been solved by the Changsheng Dao long ago. Zhao Kan didn't think too much, and told him that, after discovering a new world, if he wanted to cross it in the flesh, the Xian Chao would have 2 solutions. The first is to carry the second set of rituals of the heavens with you. After crossing, you can open the passage of the heavens at any time and return to the world of cultivation. Zhao Kan was also very kind, and taught him how to make the coordinate stars of the main world, so as not to get lost when splitting the soul, to explore the Sea of Worlds. The second is to use abundant energy, to keep the ritual of the heavens open all the time. This requires a 5th level spiritual vein, or the legendary top grade spiritual stone. Li Quanqing can naturally only choose the first one. However, if he bought another set of rituals from Changsheng Dao, Zhao Kan would definitely find clues. This is also the conspiracy of the Immortal dynasty. Even if you are lucky enough to discover a new world by chance, you will definitely need a second set of rituals if you want to explore it in the flesh. In the end, he set his sights on the 4C sect. After all, there are 5 nascent souls. Things went quite smoothly. Taiyin's engine was not very interested in exploring the heavens. She happened to have a ritual, which was also given to her by the Immortal dynasty. She also kindly warned that the soul wandering in the Sea of Worlds also has great risks. For example, Changshu's engine in the 4C sect is addicted to it, and often splits the soul seed. Now he has become a little moody. Li Quanqing agreed to it. While waiting for the ritual to arrive, he also collected a lot of ancient books about the fairy world and ascension. In the end, he really found a lot of useful things. For example, according to legend, after the incarnation monks ascended, there are special feats and pools to receive them. Just soak the body in the pool water, and the lifespan can be doubled, and you can easily have an amazing lifespan of 4 or 5,000 years. Li Quanqing thought that, after being baptized in the Feeksan pool, he could become like the native cultivators of the immortal realm, and absorb the immortal particles into his body. Soon, the heavenly ritual of Taiyin Gengjin was delivered, and Li Quanqing officially began his second exploration journey. Chapter 401 Ascension to the Immortal Realm. Boom. As the rituals of the heavens were opened again, silver light gushed out, runes were like the sea, and the entire 4th level spiritual vein was extracted. One after another, the spiritual energy was as thick as a pillar, and all of them drilled into the thousands of star rings, rotating continuously. The star map appeared around, and the void space was like waves. Buzz! Exclamation mark. The Taiksu Gate, which was the size of a grain of rice, was suspended in the center of the altar. With the help of the power in it, a silver-white crack was finally opened again. Now, Li Quanqing spoke in a deep voice. In the Danshan, the Yuanying's little face was serious. With a wave of his hand, the mana roared in the sky, and poured into the altar. At the same time, the void butterfly, which performed the big and small Ruai magical powers, also landed on his shoulder, flapping its wings continuously, and falling pieces of void light. In the end, this passage was maintained in a circle more than 2 feet wide, completely stable, like a silver-white kaleidoscope, with dazzling luster. Li Quanqing took out a moon-patterned rabbit, which had the cultivation of the late stage of key refining. A magic weapon level rope was tied to its legs, which was long enough to cover a distance of 1,000 miles. Go. He stretched out his hand and threw the cute little white rabbit into the space tunnel, where it was submerged by the rich silver light. Then, Li Quanqing took out the life card of the moon-patterned rabbit and closely observed the other party's life signs. If the moon-patterned rabbit died immediately after crossing the boundary, he would have to consider the safety of this passage. Time passed by minute. Fortunately, the life card of the spirit rabbit had been very stable, and its life was vigorous, and it did not die suddenly. Until half an incense stick later, Li Quanqing and the void butterfly finally couldn't hold on. The stable space passage began to collapse, and thunder-like cracks spread one after another. Whoosh! Li Quanqing was quick-eyed and quick-handed. He quickly recovered the rope in his hand, and pulled the moon-patterned rabbit out at the last second before the passage collapsed. Badgie. What was so funny was that this snow-white rabbit was chewing a ginseng as thick as a carrot, with its cheeks puffed up, and chewing with great relish. It looks like it's only 300 years old, but the spiritual energy and plant essence it contains are actually comparable to the 1,000-year-old spiritual medicine in the world of immortal cultivation. Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows and pulled the spiritual ginseng out of its little claws, ignoring the rabbit's protest. The ginseng was thicker than ordinary carrots, with a dark yellow skin like jade, faintly emitting a wisp of purple air, and stained with fresh soil. Due to the chewing of the moon rabbit, the crystal clear ginseng meat has been exposed, and the juice is white, like milk, emitting bursts of pleasant fragrance. Being able to pull out such a spiritual medicine in such a short time, it can be seen that the other side of the void channel is indeed a world with extremely rich resources. Sure enough, there are also immortality particles hidden in it. Li Quanqing used the power of the nascent soul to sweep it inch by inch. Finally, he also found a trace of immortal energy inside the spiritual ginseng. It was crystal clear and very few in number, slowly dissipating between heaven and earth. He tried to refine it again, but still failed. It was difficult for his flesh and blood body to contain it. He could only watch these immortal particles disappear in front of his eyes. I'm well prepared. It's time to try it myself. After the Danshan mana was restored, Li Quanqing no longer hesitated. After telling Li Kunlun and others that he would go into deep retreat, he opened the ritual of the heavens again. Buzz! Exclamation mark. The star rings in the sky rotated again, the spiritual energy gathered, the space fluctuated, and a silver-white passage was opened up on the altar again, as if crossing layers of space. Li Quanqing concentrated his mind and calmed down, took out the Hanhei bowl, and drilled into it, and then made up his mind to take away the fragments of the Taiksu Gate, and then crashed into the passage. The rich silver-white light filled the field of vision, making it difficult to distinguish the four directions and the ups and downs, as if it was only rushing forward. The Hanhei bowl bloomed with a deep blue spiritual light and had successfully promoted to the Yuanying spiritual treasure. The material was hard and could be touched even in the face of space cracks. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened. After all, the fragile rabbits could return safely. Finally, the Hanhei bowl trembled slightly, rushed out of the space channel, broke free from all constraints, and arrived at a brand new world. Bang! Exclamation mark. In the towering ancient forest, mottled sunlight fell from the top of the head, and a space crack emerged, from which a large sea bowl fell into the soil. In the bowl, Li Quanqing held his breath and concentrated, and his consciousness extended carefully, and began to look at this world. The surroundings were overgrown with weeds. Even an ordinary weed was taller than a person, verdant and dripping, containing a thin spiritual energy, swaying gently with the wind. Not to mention the strange ancient trees, which were extremely towering and unimaginably thick, with treetops covering the sky and hanging vines, hanging in all directions. The Hanhei bowl was quietly lying in the mud, motionless. Not far away, there were some traces of animal claws, which were very large, and there were a few remaining hairs, shining with luster. Whoosh! Exclamation mark. Li Quanqing stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The bowl rim flashed with light, and he immediately grabbed the animal hairs in his hand, accompanied by a fishy smell. The hair left by the foundation building monster looks like a hunter. He felt a little relieved. Since the foundation building monsters can survive here, with his cultivation, he can also be very nourished. It is not as dangerous as he imagined. The Hanhei bowl trembled slightly, and its size shrank again. Like a ring, it flew over layers of branches, and flew towards the top of this ancient forest. Li Quanqing wanted to verify his guess, where he was, and whether he really came to the legendary fairyland. Flutter. Between the treetops, a scarlet bat suddenly pounced on him, with sharp eyes, bright yellow claws and beak, and blazing flames all over its body, as if it regarded him as a strange prey. It can be seen that not far away, the branches of the trees interweave into a huge bird's nest, and there are several chicks crying for food inside, covered with sparse down. A perfect foundation building monster, and with noble blood. If the opportunity is enough, maybe you can try to break through the bottleneck of the golden elixir. Li Quanqing exclaimed. This kind of monster with some red bird blood flowing in the lower world, even the Yuanying sect would treat it as a treasure. But here, it is like an ordinary bird, and can be seen everywhere. He released a wisp of golden elixir breath, which immediately scared away the fire spirit bird. Its hair exploded, staggered, and fell back into the nest. The vast sea bowl soared into the sky, finally breaking through the blockade of the layers of tree canopy, and an extremely dazzling light shone from the top of the head, magnificent and vast, extremely yang and strong. 7 brilliant suns hung high in the sky, all of them brilliant, emitting endless light and heat, nourishing the growth of all things. Not only that, this piece of sky is even more strange, as if above the deepest strong wind, there is a new sky, layer upon layer, with no end in sight. There are 9 layers of heaven, 7 suns hang high, and 5 moons are like wheels. The immortal touches the top of the head, tying the hair to live forever. Li Quanqing muttered to himself, recalling the ancient books he had collected, and was shocked beyond words. He actually ascended to heaven in broad daylight. Chapter 402 Silver Moon Wolf. Li Quanqing looked at the sky above his head, and was extremely shocked. There are 9 layers of heaven, and 7 suns hang high in the sky. This is exactly the characteristic of the immortal world. At the beginning of ancient times, the immortal who descended to the world personally explained it, recorded it in ancient books, and passed it down to later generations. The immortal world coordinates that I have been searching for tens of thousands of years are actually in my hands. Li Quanqing was speechless for a long time. Although he had expected it, when he really saw this scene, his heartbeat in his chest was still thundering like a drum. He even felt a sense of unreality, like a dream. I never thought that the problem that had troubled the 5 domains of immortal cultivation for tens of thousands of years and countless Yuanyings beat their chests and stamped their feet would actually collapse. As easy as blowing a breath, this natural chasm collapsed like a pile of sand and ceased to exist. The road to incarnation is already in sight. Boom. At this moment, thunderous sounds suddenly came from afar, deafening. It was a roar that shook the mountains and forests for thousands of miles, stretching endlessly. It could be vaguely seen that two huge monsters were fighting each other, as if they were fighting for a treasure. The demonic energy surged, and the fairy light bloomed, dyeing the sky. The mountains rose and fell like dragons. Countless monsters were startled. Birds covered the sky, and wild beasts fled for their lives, turning into torrents of scattered torrents. Smoke and dust filled the air, shaking the earth. The fight between the nascent soul monsters. Li Quanqing came back to his senses and looked at the area across thousands of miles. The powerful mana fluctuation spread out, which was frightening. He had also killed a 4th level monster with his own hands, but compared with these two monsters, he was not at the same level of strength. Even if his own combat power was strong, he would have to pay a heavy price to suppress one of them. The most important thing was that in the depths of the mountains, powerful auras emerged one after another, all of which were at the nascent soul level, and there were more than a dozen of them, and the demonic aura was like clouds. The top few of them even made him feel like he was facing Zaokian, as deep and unfathomable as the abyss in the sea. Golden elixir is worse than a dog, and Yuanying is everywhere. Li Quanqing was a little numb when he saw it, and he couldn't help laughing in his heart. It was indeed the legendary fairyland. He was the ancestor of the Li family, the true lord of the vast sea, holding several powerful spiritual treasures, and the leader of the East China Sea's Yuxin world. When he came here, he could only be called a strong man. If he met a real boss, he could only die decently. A very long lost familiar feeling emerged in his heart again. That was the weakness that could not help himself. The best policy was to go astray. Li Quanqing took a deep look at the depths of the mountains, and then he no longer hesitated and manipulated the vast sea bowl to go in the opposite direction and quickly went away. No matter what kind of treasure there was, it was not something he could covet at this time. After flying a long distance of 1,000,000 miles, Li Quanqing arrived at the edge of this towering ancient forest and saw sparse and low bushes. Further away, there is an exposed plateau, with mountains and gullies interweaving and ravines, and sparse vegetation. The exposed soil actually presents a light golden luster. At this place, only the weakly refining monsters are left. Even if they are in the foundation building stage, they can become overlords in one area, bearing their fangs and claws, and living a very comfortable life. It is this kind of area that is suitable for me to show my skills. Li Quanqing was quite satisfied with what he saw. After some preparation, he walked out of the Hanhei bowl. The fluctuation of his magic power covered the late Jiandan level, which was not eye-catching at all. The Hanhei bowl turned lightly and was held in his hand, isolating all monsters from prying, even the void butterfly. The fairy world is very important. Before he has completely settled down, even the closest monsters cannot be exposed. Li Quanqing walked forward. He had cast a hexagram before and performed the tortoise hexagram technique. This direction is the safest, and it seems that there is also a great opportunity. Walking in the legendary fairy world, Li Quanqing's first feeling was that the spiritual energy was too abundant, and it was so rich that it was suffocating. It seemed that there was no poor spiritual land in the lower world. Spiritual veins could be seen everywhere. If you look carefully, you can find spiritual veins comparable to the 3rd level spiritual veins, which can support the practice of Jiandan Zenran. The magical particles of longevity were also everywhere, but unfortunately he could not use them at all at present, so he could only sigh helplessly. In addition, the world was larger and the space was more stable. Li Quanqing felt a sense of restraint when he walked among the mountains. It was the shackles given by heaven and earth, and the power of various spells would be reduced accordingly. If in the lower world, the cultivators could even break through the space and teleport over a short distance by exerting the power of the nascent soul, which was a life-saving technique. But in the fairy world, it was impossible. If you want to break through the stable space, even the god transformation venerable would find it difficult to do it. As for more differences, they were not found. After all, the contact time was too short. The traces of human cultivators. Li Quanqing took the 1,000-year-old Polygonum multiflorum at the bottom of the cliff, and then looked at a pool of black traces of burning not far away. Although the bones had been burned to ashes, based on his experience, this was definitely a human who died here. He raised a strong wind, blew away the yellow soil on the ground, and finally found half of the knife tip, which was a spiritual weapon at the foundation building level. It looked like it had been buried for no more than 20 or 30 years. Li Quanqing felt relieved, which meant that his direction was right. Fortunately, he did not come to the legendary demon domain. But with my golden finger, should I catch a few demon beasts and brand them as slaves? Li Quanqing's heart was pounding. The battle between the big demons just now triggered a beast tide. He also saw many golden elixir demon beasts with extraordinary bloodlines running out from the depths of the ancient forest. Among them, there were even 2 or 3 that were enough to be called Yuanying. Unfortunately, he was in a hurry to escape, and was unable to catch them. Now they had disappeared without a trace. After walking thousands of miles, he was finally about to leave the scope of this ancient forest and step into the endless golden plateau in front of him. A woo. The high-pitched wolf howl suddenly broke the silence. The sound was like rolling thunder, with endless wildness and majesty, revealing a lonely and lofty breath, echoing in the wilderness. In addition, there were also chaotic shouts from the human race, with a little vigilance and panic, and the sound of swords and knives. Li Quanqing swept his consciousness and saw the specific scene, which was more than 800 miles away. It was a group of huge green wolves, with tall muscles, green light in their pupils, and sharp fangs looming in their mouths. There were more than 30 wolf monsters in this group, all of whom were in the foundation building realm. When they ran, they were like a fierce and powerful whirlwind. The most eye-catching one was the Wolf King in the wolf pack. It turned out to be a silver wolf, with silver white hair like snow, agile and graceful posture, and a unique crescent-shaped black spot on its forehead, like a star falling here in the dark night, which made it even more mysterious. It stood on a low mountain, with pointed and upright ears, elegant and indifferent posture, overlooking the battlefield below, with the densest mane on its neck, majestic, like a silver flame burning in the wind. Silver Moon Heavenly Wolf. Li Quanqing recognized this monster. Its tribe had long been extinct in the lower world. He didn't expect to encounter one here. It's a mid-stage giant monster with noble bloodline, and on the verge of a breakthrough. It's quite suitable. Moreover, it's a Taiyan monster. I'm sure Ao King will like it very much. In an instant, Li Quanqing made a decision to capture this mighty wolf monster and raise it with love. As for those ordinary Kingfeng wolves, they have limited potential and there is really no need to feed them. With a plan in mind, Li Quanqing looked at the group of humans. There were 5 young men in gorgeous clothes, and there were more than 10 middle-aged men who looked like servants. They spoke in unfamiliar words that they couldn't understand, used magic weapons to attack, and even opened a large formation, struggling to support it. If there were only foundation building monsters, they could break out with their strength. Unfortunately, the Silver Moon Heavenly Wolf was a giant monster. It was affected by the beast tide just now, and was forced to come to the outskirts of the ancient forest. It can only be said that this group of people was unlucky. Hey, something is wrong. These guys are not cultivators. Li Quanqing raised his eyebrows and realized that he had made a mistake. Most of these dozen human beings have no spiritual roots, but their blood and ki are extremely vigorous. They use secret methods to forcibly refine the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In this way, they can control various powerful magic tools and spiritual tools, and their combat power is comparable to that of foundation building cultivators. Only the 2 young people in the center are real spiritual roots, 1 man and 1 woman, with full of magic power, clouds, and mist, shrouded in a layer of fairy light. The woman is in the late stage of foundation building. She has a pair of phoenix eyes, wears a palace skirt, has delicate features, and has a graceful and extraordinary demeanor. The man looks like he has just broken through the foundation. He is wearing a purple robe. He looks very young and handsome, with a bit of childishness between his eyebrows and eyes, and has extraordinary qualifications. Led by the 2 cultivators, the crowd relied on the power of the formation to resist the attacks of the wolf pack again and again, and slowly retreated, waiting for an opportunity to escape. Yes, the opportunity I calculated must be with these guys. Li Quanqing smiled slightly, without any idea of jumping out to help. He couldn't even understand the words of these natives of the fairy world and didn't know the customs and practices. If he rashly contacted them, he would make himself uncomfortable. Li Quanqing was well prepared for this exploration of the alien world. Considering the language barrier, he even specially got the soul-searching secret technique from the magic way and practiced it painstakingly. It was at this moment that he was shining and radiating. He saw his 5 fingers spread out, and in an instant, the wind and clouds surged, and the spiritual tide swept between heaven and earth, condensing into a huge hand that covered the sky and the sun and fell down. Invisible waves spread out, mixed with extremely hidden soul attacks, like sound waves, violently impacting the sea of consciousness of these creatures. In just a moment, all the blue wolves and humans were all unconscious with white eyes, and their bodies collapsed to the ground. They were just a group of foundation building people, and they had no power to resist at all, and they completely lost all consciousness. Abu. A layer of frost condensed on the hair of the silver moon wolf, and it let out a high-pitched cry, unyielding, baring its teeth, and trying to resist. In the end, it was suppressed by a slap, and the icy moon wheel condensed around its body was shattered. It was covered in blood, its bones were broken, and it let out a miserable wail, sobbing. Only then did Li Quanqing slowly show up, ready to perform the soul-searching secret technique. To truly understand this 9 heavens fairyland, he wanted to completely integrate into it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.